The Jake Asman Show will begin shortly. Thanks to all these great Patreon members who help support the show. Get your super chats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
An F for Woody Johnson. We'll talk about Woody being ranked dead last in the NFLPA report card, plus more rumblings about what the Jets will do. Dan Essian from Badlands is going to join us to start things off. It's the Jake Asman Show, live from Indy. Combine coverage continues right now.
Live from Radio Row in Indianapolis, it's Combine time as teams look for their next superstar. Some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment will be right here. Get ready for the 2025 draft, baby. It's the Jake Asman Show.
Now, we will talk about the draft. We won't talk about free agency, but I got Dan Essian here from Badlands. And Dan, it's great to have you on the show. And are you excited to talk about Woody Johnson receiving an F in the NFLPA report card?
I don't know about excited to talk about it, but I'm ready. I'm ready to talk.
Famously, the guy who said thinking is overrated apparently is not well received by his employees. Woody Johnson coming in dead last in the annual NFLPA grades. I got a lot of thoughts on this. First, I'm just going to pull up a tweet from Zach Rosenblatt that just basically has some of the best lines from the report. I'll read this first, and then we'll talk about it. Some lines from the NFLPA report cards. Quote, rather than addressing concerns, players believe that management responded to feedback by making conditions worse. The Jets' ownership grade dropped from a B- to an F, with Woody Johnson receiving the league's lowest owner score for contributing to positive team culture. The players felt Johnson does not contribute to a positive team culture, a rank of 32 out of 32. Owner Woody Johnson's average rating for perceived willingness to invest in the facilities is 5.58 out of 10. From Jets players, a ranking of 32 out of 32 owners in the league. The Jets graded positively in a couple areas: strength coaches, nutritionist / dietitian, and head coach, that being Jeff Ulbrich. All other grades were C+ or worse. I got to be honest. My initial reaction was, if these players are giving Jeff Ulbrich a B, I almost feel like this entire report card is invalid. That said, it doesn't surprise me that the Jets bashed Woody Johnson, but I would like to point out, a year ago, Woody Johnson received a B- as an owner. So what changed? Well, I think a lot of the players were pissed off with the head coach being fired 5 games into the year, and are trying to use that as the scapegoat for this disastrous Jets season.
You're 100% right. I think a lot of players are very public about that frustration when he was fired. And some players, it took a while for them to, also bring out the same type of sentiments publicly. And I think where that power vacuum started to develop, around the time that firing happened, and then with Saleh, everything that came out, all the leaks and everything like that. But like even before all that, a lot of Jeff Ulbrich's style very much felt more like, hey, I just want to shepherd this period through and make sure everyone feels a little bit happier than they were previously. And there wasn't a lot of authority in a lot of what he was trying to do. So I think in the absence of that, people start to punch up, and the next level above that, Joe Douglas wasn't really around. So I think the person that they saw the most, the person that, they could kind of direct a lot of their frustrations towards, was Woody Johnson. And you can see a lot of that in these reports of like, hey, we just don't feel like, the way that things went and the atmosphere around the team was made better or helped at all by his presence. And I think that, that frustration really is just from the lack of authority in the room.
Now, Woody has acknowledged he needs to be better, but I also think some of this is just sour grapes, because I want to pull up a tweet here from Ryan Fitzpatrick, of all people, who said the Jets facilities were the nicest of the 9 teams he played for by a long shot. He goes, I call bullshit on some of these rankings. Here are 5 possible explanations. 1, they've downgraded the facilities. We know they haven't. 2, Fitz hasn't been there since 2016, so shut your pie hole, you know nothing. 3, young players are now delusional and too pampered from college facilities where football isn't the main thing. 4, players banded together because they don't like ownership and didn't give honest feedback in hopes to smear the reputation of the Jets. 5, lots of complainers in the building. I don't want to be the Woody apologist because the guy's a bad owner. Like, we could call it for what it is. He has proven to be a bad owner, and until he proves otherwise, it is fair to call a guy who's owned the team since 2000 and has presided over the longest playoff drought in sports a bad owner. That said, it just feels like we're trying to blame Woody Johnson for everything when Joe Douglas was in year 6, Robert Saleh was in year 4. They got everything they seemingly wanted, and I understand to a point why Woody was frustrated and pissed off with this season. Doesn't justify him firing Saleh and some of the other things we know he's involved with, but this idea that it's all Woody, but we're going to give Jeff Ulbrich a B when we all watch with our own eyes this guy be the worst coach any of us have seen. Come on, man. I don't know. I want to just move on from 2024, Dan, and start looking to the future. But stories like this come out, and you obviously have to address it. But I just get frustrated when it's all put on Woody, and it's like we just absolve the GM and coach, who were here for 6 years and 4 years, respectfully.
It was a collective failure, and I think a lot of that gets lost with reports like this because it's very easy to continue to find separate reasons to blame for the way that things went, and I think for a lot of this team and those who will remain and those who will continue to stick on, it's going to be the answers will rely on them looking in the mirror and just being like, okay, that happened, that entire season happened, it did not go the way we wanted to, instead of continuing to find something else to blame and something else that's not ideal. And for a lot of teams, their ownership is not ideal. I think somebody quote tweeted the Panthers grade, and they're like, man, this is terrible. And then somebody's like, well, look at the Jets grade, and just a lot of these teams are going through a lot of the same things.
The Chiefs on this, by the way, I'm looking at it here. They were a C-. So it's like, if the Chiefs have a C- grade for ownership, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
I don't think it means anything, to be honest with you. And when I hear from someone like Fitz, who played for 9 teams, say that the Jets had one of the best facilities he's had, I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in this, to be honest. I've been to the Jets facilities. I'm sure you've been to Florham Park as well. They're beautiful. It still looks new to this day. It was built in 2008. You know what matters at the end of the day? This team's got to find ways to win.
Yeah.
This team wins. None of this matters.
Everything
the
changes.
The Chiefs were a C- in the same grade. They've won 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, everything changes when you win. That's it. Everything starts to feel a lot different. All the same frustrations that you had all of a sudden seem a lot smaller. So, yeah, just got to find ways to win. I'm just glad that we have to hear Aaron Glenn say that that's their main focus, because a lot of what Aaron Glenn is going to have to do is take a lot of the frustration and a lot of the attention that's now gone straight through up to ownership and put it on himself. And I think he's willing to do that.
Yeah, and to your point, Dan, Woody Johnson has said that he needs to be better. I actually do think he's going to let this new regime do their thing at the beginning, but he's going to go back to being the old Woody if they don't win. And I don't think anyone should be surprised by that. I don't think Woody, is going in with the intention of pretending he knows more football than these guys. But when Douglas is here and the team is still terrible, then he rightfully got impatient. I mean, he spent all this money to bring in players and hire the coaches they want and bring in the quarterback they want, and it didn't work. And I think that frustration from ownership was justified. Now, how it was applied and firing Saleh obviously was a terrible mistake. But I think with this new regime, I think Woody's going to let them do their thing. But if Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji don't win in the first 2 years here, it's not going to shock me in year 3 if we end up hearing stories of Woody meddling if they can't figure it out by then.
Right, exactly. I think they rightfully set the boundaries right now, and Woody will respect those, as he said. But if you can show evidence that you have a plan, that you have a pathway towards success, he's gonna stay where he is, and that'll be fine.
So I'm just looking at other aspects of this story here. So it's a survey of 1,695, so 1,695 players. I think 77% of all NFL players participated in this, and obviously, when you come out and vote the way they do, you're clearly sending a message. But I think highlighting Fitzpatrick's point in the last part of his tweet here, number 5, lots of complainers in the building. Yeah. That tone was set by the head coach and the GM, who basically said, we lost Rodgers. We're done. Your coworker, our friend Joe Caporoso, uses the term mopiness to describe Saleh and Douglas. That rubs off on the players. And I think that's why, just thinking back to yesterday's press conference with Aaron Glenn, the goal at that press conference by both him and Muji was to try and talk directly to the players and send a message of it's going to be different now, we're trying to win now and in the future. And we as fans can react to that being what does that mean? But it's they're using that as a message to the players by coming out and saying what they're saying in these press conference settings. They're trying to change this that you see on the screen. They're trying to change that attitude that has basically engulfed that entire building.
Exactly. Yeah. If you can rid this building this first year of all of that type of attitude of, man, like it's again, like I said earlier, somebody else's fault that things are like this. It's something I can complain about. I'm going to go straight to Twitter. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to be loud as possible publicly, and it's not going to help the situation. It's going to make it worse. I think a lot of what Aaron Glenn is saying about, like, we're just going to keep these things in house. We're just going to deal with it ourselves. We're just going to deal with it ourselves. Like, that's the type of atmosphere where you can maturely figure things out. Let's just all hope that that's what happens in this first year.
What did you think of yesterday's press conference, Dan? You and I were there watching it. Did anything, thinking back to it now 24 hours later, really catch your eye, stand out?
I think a few things. I think I was interested in him naming specific players, and the players that he did name, particularly a couple that have interesting contract situations coming up. Like he really didn't have to, and he did name them specifically. But I think that conversation is for another day.
You talking about Quincy Williams?
Quincy Williams and AVT,
right?
I think that conversation will be for another time, perhaps. But I think what I like the most is that he understands the atmosphere. I think he's, one thing he mentioned specifically is, I know that people were not super happy about the quarterback decision, particularly the players. And he's like, that's not going to be the only decision I make that they're not going to like, And I think he's willing to change things and not be liked in the short term in order for him to build a successor in the long term. And I think that's super important.
Ultimately, the Jets have to go out there and they're going to have to find a long-term answer at quarterback. It's just a matter of, does that guy exist this offseason, or is it, hey, we're going to wait till 2026 and then make our move then? I keep hearing a lot of Justin Fields buzz. Like, that's like and conversations I have with people around the league, to be like a snooty NFL guy here at the Combine. But, like, that's truly the vibe I get when I talk to different people. Like, even, like, unannounced people just bringing up Justin Fields as an option. I almost feel like if that many people are saying it, is like not going to have it because it feels too obvious. But if I was making a prediction right now who this team signs, I think after being here the last 2 days, I think they're going to sign Justin Fields to be the competition for Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, and it would be a pretty decent decision if they do go that route. I think he's somebody that you understand what the floor is right now pretty clearly based on his experience so far. So I think in Pittsburgh, a lot of Pittsburgh fans wish that he would have played more. That whole situation is very complicated in terms of what their offensive strategy was, his mesh with the receivers and everything like that. It was just a very complicated situation in general, and Russell Wilson's contract. But I think in a fresh new start again for him, I think he just needs the right fit. And I think the Jets, as much as he's kind of asking for, I want like a clear pathway, a clear runway, I think that part may not mesh as directly with what Aaron Glenn is saying, like about I want competition at every position. I think he's gonna have to be okay with fighting for something, and regardless of if you think like, oh, it's just like putting the veteran there just so that like it seems like I'm competing with somebody and I should have the spot. Like, I think for him, if he's gonna be all in on a situation like the Jets, he has to actually compete. Like, there's no runway. There's no like, hey, this is yours, and here's a full season. It's gifted to you. No, like, work for it. And then earn it yourself. So.
I just don't know, other than I guess maybe Pittsburgh, or they brought him back. I don't know if there's an obvious, hey, a team signs Fields and he's the starter there right away. So from that standpoint, the Jets are probably appealing to Fields. They obviously have his buddy Garrett Wilson. Jeremy Ruckert played with him at Ohio State as well. The O-line's in decent shape compared to other teams around the league that have quarterback situations that are ongoing.
Yeah,
it's not the worst situation for him. Question is, would he beat out Tyrod, though? Because I think Tyrod Taylor, like, we know what he is. He's a solid NFL veteran quarterback that you can win games with before he gets hurt. Like, if you guaranteed me 17 games with Tyrod Taylor, I'd say let's have him be the guy for the year, and then they'll draft someone, and then it doesn't work out, they'll draft someone again next year, probably in the first round.
Exactly. Yeah, and that may be the case, but we'll see. We'll see. I feel like I think Darren Mucci talked about it yesterday about him I'm not too worried about the cap as much as like a lot of Jets fans have been worried about the cap. He does seem like he feels things could be a little bit more flexible. So
they have cap space. This idea that they have no money is kind of wild.
Exactly.
Now, how are they going to spend the money, Dan? Besides Fields, are there any other free agents out there you've done some work on?
I would be very, very wary of safety, folks, because I think that the Jets have not invested in that position for a long time, and this is a group coming in, particularly with Aaron Glenn, particularly with Steve Wilkes. They know what success looks like at that position, and they've invested in that position in the past pretty heavily. So I do think that safety might be a priority higher than people have thought in the past for the Jets.
If you're watching this live right now, please click the like button. All super chats when Dan is on the show go towards the round of drinks I'm buying for this guy. He's working hard out here at the combine. Omari starts us off with this. Any truth to the Garrett Wilson news? Do you see him and Sauce getting extended this year? As I have been saying for months on the show, and if you watch this show, you know I've been saying it. Garrett Wilson will be a Jet. He will be offered an extension. He will sign a contract to stay with the Jets. This idea that he was ever going to leave, whether Rodgers was here or not, if you've watched the show for months, you guys know I've said I believe Garrett will be a Jet. I believe they're going to extend him. Sauce, I don't know. Sauce, I think I could see him playing out another year on his contract, and then they sign him next year. Sauce maybe wants to play out another year on his deal, and if he reverts back to being an all-pro, he makes even more money a year from now, or he just might want to take the guaranteed security if the Jets are going to talk contract with him. But, I mean, I've been steadfast in Garrett Wilson remaining a Jet. I think any new regime that is going to come in and evaluate the roster is going to recognize Garrett's value. He's quarterback proof. We know the quarterbacks he's put up numbers with. That's the guy you pay. You put the C on him as well. Like, it doesn't surprise me that, you know, your guy Zach Rosenblatt said that Garrett wants an extension. He wants to stay. He wants to be paid.
Exactly.
And players want to get paid. Garrett Wilson has a chance to get paid. I just don't think it's that complicated.
100%. Yeah. I think fans need to not overreact to anything that happens, whether it's the social media stuff or like
don't
whatever.
Cleveland tweet something to try and get you fired up, Jet fans. Don't fall for it. The Jets are going to pay Garrett Wilson.
Exactly. It's the whole process. Every team goes through it every year. By the end of it, they get paid and they're super happy and then they love the city again. It's all good.
Yeah, and you know what it is too? Like, Garrett Wilson has never said he's requesting a trade anyway. And my big thing is, all right, so he requests a trade. He's going into what will be the fourth year of a 5-year rookie contract. Where's his leverage? And I love Garrett. I'm not trying to say that to be like, yeah, try it, Garrett. It's like this is how the business works. Yeah. You can't force a trade when you're on a rookie contract. You don't see it.
Yep.
Unless the team wants to trade you. Like Jamal Adams was different. The team was going to be awful, and they got 2 first-round picks and what was it? 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick for a box safety who couldn't cover. It was a no-brainer. Yep. This is not that with Garrett Wilson.
Exactly.
What about Sauce, though? I'm curious your thoughts on him because I think we've almost gone too crazy with talking about how bad Sauce is. Like, was he his normal self in his first 2 years? No, but, I mean, you see the advanced numbers that I see, too. The idea that this guy is, like, terrible now, I think it's crazy.
His confidence, I'm so excited for how Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes will impact him because it's the perfect match for him personally in getting 2 coaches, one with Wilkes, who's seen so many corners succeed. He understands what a star corner looks like. He understands what a shutdown corner looks like, particularly in man. And then Aaron Glenn, again, you know his career, but you also see what he's had with Marshawn Lattimore and other corners in the past. And the way that they're going to influence him, I think, is going to be a really positive impact on him because, like you said, he's still elite. He's having a couple of moments in this past season where you're like, okay, his confidence seems a little bit low. But then you look back at the numbers and you're like, yeah, no, he's still elite. He's still one of the best corners in the NFL. So getting that confidence back, on getting that coaching now with Aaron Glenn and Wilkes, like it's going to be pretty awesome to see what he becomes. So yeah, I think they're going to pay him pretty mightily.
Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question, Omar. I'll do more on Garrett and Sauce later this week. I actually have some notable guests who cover these guys coming on the show. We'll talk with both Brian Costello and Connor Hughes on the show tomorrow. Both are scheduled to join us. All right, some memberships that have been gifted here. Friday is the Asmaniac raffle. If you missed the announcement earlier, we added a 7th prize to our epic raffle. How about a signed Mark Gastineau helmet going with the other items in today's or Friday's raffle, I should say. Signed Pennington helmet, signed Klecko helmet, signed Sanchez helmet, and then 3 jerseys. Jermaine Johnson autographed jersey, Mangold autographed jersey, Sauce autographed jersey. So the theme, Dan, is successful Jets draft picks. I'm trying to manifest some positive vibes here at the Combine.
Absolutely.
Let's go. The following people are in our raffle. They gifted memberships. Kyle Clifton is in for 1. Mother effing Chew is in for 1. South Philly is in for 1. So if you got a membership from either of those 3 fine gentlemen, make sure you thank them. Infrared writes in, how the F can you own a team for 24 years and only have 4 winning seasons? Well, the stat is not correct, Infrared. The Jets made the playoffs 6 times in Woody's first 10 years as the owner.
Yeah.
Now, they have not made the playoffs in 14 years, and they have not won more than 7 games in a decade.
Right.
But the Jets were a playoff team, and they had a winning season in 01, 02, 04, 06, 08, 09, 10, 15. So that's 8 winning seasons in Woody's ownership.
Yep.
So I'm not saying that's great, we know that this team has been terrible for 14 years, but that stat is not correct for it. So it's one of two.
I understand the pain, though. It does feel like
It does feel that way. Yeah, it does definitely feel that way. Hit the like button if you're tuning in. Comments, questions, super chats. We'll cut the line. So I'm curious your take on the 7th pick, Dan. You're doing a lot of breakdowns. You're putting together that draft guide with the Badlands crew. That's always informative.
Yeah.
Gun to your head, if you had to stake your claim, what you think happens with that number 7 pick today? And I know it could change a lot from now to then, but what's your feel as we really kick into draft season now? What they're going to do with that pick?
I honestly think it might get traded.
Up or down?
I think so.
Are we coming up for a quarterback?
For in my personal preference, I would love to go down. I think that there's some really good talent towards the top, but I do think that some of the guys that are going to slide, some of the guys going to be available a little bit later on, are worth getting more capital later on or in the second round if you can. I think that there are also targets for the Jets if they do trade down that I personally would really like, and I do think that the team would like. So I wouldn't be too afraid of a little trade down, but I also think that there's a non-zero chance of trading up for a quarterback.
Which quarterback would they trade up for? Is it Cam?
I think it's Cam, yeah. But I mean, in terms of a guy that can last in the city, I remember I talked about this a while back with, when we're going through like the Zach Wilson, Justin Fields debates, and I think before even when Trevor Lawrence was in the equation, a lot of it is about can you survive in the highest possible pressure environment, and I think that challenged a lot of quarterbacks for the Jets in the past, challenged guys like Darnold, and it's just something that you're not prepared for until you're in it, and then you have to try to perform in it. And so I think that's what I like about Cam Ward the most is I think he's the most battle-tested and ready for an environment like that. So I think that, his floor would be a lot higher than most others in New York and with this fan base. And I think, honestly, he would mesh really well with this fan base. But, yeah.
I think he's the only guy I'd be understandable. Is that the word? If they traded up for it.
Yeah.
You can't sell me on Shador. I'm sorry. I understand that he might be worthy a top 7 pick, but if we're going to move off of Aaron Rodgers because of a lot coming with him, and it's like then we're gonna take a guy who has his own podcast already. I was at the Super Bowl a few weeks ago. He had his own Radio Row set up. He had a film crew following him, which is fine if you're gonna play great. But I can't justify taking him when you just got rid of Aaron Rodgers for similar reasons, right?
Exactly. There's too much you would have to deal with on top of everything that you now have to work out of the past situation that you just got out of. I can't see it happen.
We're gonna have Deion Sanders once a week, being asked questions about his son and the Jets, and if the Jets get off to a bad start, is Deion gonna be criticizing Tanner Engstrand?
Exactly. It's too much.
Can't do it.
You can't sign.
Let someone else do that. Why do we have to go through that again?
Exactly.
Come on now.
Exactly.
Comments, questions, super chats, cut the line. The Hamburger has gifted 1 channel membership.
We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hamburger, thank you very much. You're in the Asmaniac raffle for 1. We have a question for Dan. Write it in. For you, second combine that you've been at, right? Last year was your first with me, I remember.
Yes, sir.
Have you heard any buzz this week specifically about the Jets? I know we alluded to the field stuff, but have you heard anything else has intrigued you about the Jets?
There was one really good conversation we had about Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, Paul was talking about that today.
Paul talked about that. Yeah, that was honestly my favorite little piece of information so far. There's a little bit of Cam Ward stuff about just not being completely asleep on that idea, which is kind of why I talked about this now. But
now, Ian Rappaport said yesterday when I asked him, "Are the Jets a team that could be trading up?" He's like, "I haven't heard that. Not saying they can't be, but I haven't heard that yet."
Right. Yeah, I think I mentioned last week, but everything now you take with a grain of salt. Everything gets much clearer in the week leading up, and I think there's a lot of things last year in the week leading up that we hadn't heard previously, and all of a sudden started to come to fruition. So I think sometimes you see matches and you're like, this could make sense, and you just kind of trust your gut a little bit. I think particularly with a first-time regime, or just like a regime that's just coming in. Often they're a little bit more buttoned up. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things flow.
Speaking of buttoned up, how about this great insight yesterday from the Jets GM Darren Muji on the options with the number 7 pick?
I think at 7 right now, we're going to be open to potentially moving up for a player or moving back. All those options are on the table right now.
Enlightening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Muj. By the way, about 9 minutes from now, Brandon Cristal, who I've known for a long time, he does local radio in Denver. He's going to be sitting right where Dan is because I'm going to get some insight, I should say, from him on Darren Muji, who Brandon apparently knows very well and was with some Denver people last night talking about Muji. So he was telling me this off air, and I'm like, hey, can you come on the show and share this with my audience? So we'll get some insight on Muji. I feel like we know Glenn, but we got to learn more about the Muj.
Yeah,
the Muj.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a mystery. I think people want to know a lot more. It'll be good stuff.
Some other needs on this roster that intrigue you, Dan. Obviously, we talked in free agency about the safety spot.
Yeah.
We know about quarterback.
Yeah.
Give me a player or maybe a position group that you're expecting the Jets to potentially be active at.
So it's a really, really good defensive tackle class, and I think that interior defensive line is a need for the Jets. I think as much as folks do not want it to be hit early, I understand. I think it probably won't be, but I do think if they trade down, Kenneth Grant is a name that I love dearly. I think Mason Graham, it does seem like it may not happen, maybe a little too early.
People I talk to that cover the Jaguars think he's like a lock almost to go there at 5.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I think that dream's over. But Kenneth Grant, I love his game. I love his tape, and I think that his fit is a little bit more intriguing for me in terms of Quinnen Williams being able to free up at 3 tech a little bit more often, getting a little bit more freedom in pass rush. And I think that his stylistic match as a little bit of a bigger guy for a team that really needs to stop the run a lot more is a perfect match. I think he had a quote today in his podium time where he's like his favorite game was against Ohio State, and what he loved the most was that this coach was like, hey, play zero and just eat up blocks. And for somebody to say that that's what they loved, that's a real one. That's somebody that you want on your team, is somebody who's like, yeah, no, I'm good with getting the dirty job and doing the dirty work, and not someone who's going to be like, hey, I want my sack totals. Like, no, I don't want to play zero anymore. I don't want to play 3 technique. Like, nah, he's cool doing anything. So I really like him. I think he's a great player.
I know that Connor Rogers said if you just put on the film of Graham and Grant in that game against Ohio State, the defending now national champs, that they just dominated. Like, they won that game essentially for Michigan that day.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's insane. It's a great watch. If you haven't watched it, just watch those two guys in the middle. It's beautiful.
Graham, probably not an option for the Jets. Do you know anything about Walter Nolan? I have Dom C's draft board up in front of me, and Nolan's a guy that Dom C has as his second-rated interior defensive lineman, with Grant being the 3rd.
Yes, he's very fun, super versatile. A very fun interview. If you got to see his podium.
Yeah, what I like about you, Dan, is you get here early for the prospect interviews. You want to hear what they have to say.
They're fun, man. Like, it's good to see like the personalities for some of these players.
Yeah.
But also, you get a good read on how much they love the game as well. It's good stuff.
Hit the like button if you're tuning in. Last chance to get a question for Dan Essien. He's the host of Buck the Trend on the Badlands Podcast Network. Brian says, what's with all the redheads on the show? I'm assuming this is not about Dan, but we did have Paul on the show earlier. Was there another redhead that joined me this week? I'm trying to think. Also, Paul would say that he's not a redhead. He'd say that he's the only one in his family without red hair. But then my audience was like,
Paul's
what?
beard portrays him.
Your beard is red.
Exactly.
You have to be a redhead. But
the beard portrays him.
Yeah.
He's a true redhead.
Paul's a good guy. I'm glad we were able to get him on. I mean, you guys have a large contingent out here. Will Pa is here. Connor's here. You're here. Paul's here. Everyone but Caparosa. He was too good to come out.
Look out for next year. Caparosa may bring not just himself, but a large movement.
Wow. By the way, Brian does clarify. Yeah, my comment was about the earlier show, so you were not being confused for having red hair, Dan.
My fault. Okay.
Yeah.
We're all good here.
Kyle Clifton has gifted 5 channel memberships. That's 5 raffle entries for the great Kyle Clifton. And you know what, Kyle? Since you're fired up, I'm fired up. Here's a little Muji. Here we go. 5 names from Kyle, 5 chances to win in the raffle. Staten Island Joe, KB, GMB Jeff, Mark Baylor, and Luke all received channel memberships. Appreciate it, Kyle. As far as, the other rounds of this draft, like day 2, day 3 guys, I mean, what I like about you is you really go in the weeds with some of the guys. Have you started doing the deep dive on some options for the Jets on day 2, day 3 at other positions?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's hard to find matches right now But I do think one guy who's
give me a tight end, man. There's so many good tight ends.
There's gonna be a million tight ends. There's gonna be so many options for sure. One guy I want to mention, it's a guy that Will got me on, Jack Bash, and of course
TCU, right?
Yeah, everyone knows the story. It's an incredible story. But like, man, the style of his game. If you look at how physical a lot of the Detroit Lions receivers were, I do think that's an aspect that the Jets are going to have coming over from Detroit with Tanner Extreme. Like, I do think that some of these more physical wide receivers are going to be target for them, and it sounds like he's going to run pretty well too. So if that is the case, on top of that, with Aaron Glenn, the Jets are looking for speed. If he can combine that physicality and speed together, that would be a pretty interesting target for them.
Final question. You ready for this?
Yeah.
I sent you the Asmaniac Madness bracket before the show. You were going through it. You were filling it out. I want the Dan Essien breakdown on who he has cutting down the nets in Asmaniac Madness. Dan is going through his bracket.
Oh, give me 1 second.
He's analyzing all of it. You know what? I'm going to really make this dramatic. Before you tell us who you have, what I'm going to do first to get the Asmaniacs in the mood is simply play this.
The time has come, Asmaniacs. Let's reveal the bracket for the first annual Asmaniac Madness Tournament as soon as I get my pants back on.
Dan, who is winning Asmaniac Madness?
I'm going David T.
Wow. David T.
Second seed.
2 seed going all the way. Now, do you think he has like an eye on things? You think he has a very up close and personal perspective?
I got my eye on you, Jay. I hope you like my Jets take. You know they call me David T. It's not easy for me to see, but if you bring me full stream, you might like what I had to say. I'll need to get real damn close, cause my vision is dog shit.
I'll tell you what, I like the David T pick because you're a very nice guy. David T's probably the nicest guy that calls into the show. Makes sense.
We got to stick together,
A David T pick. Love that. David T was shocked he even made the tournament. I go, David, you're a beloved Asmaniac, man. You're a 2 seed for a reason.
Yeah, come on.
That's a tough region, by the way. That is the Hood region. I mean, that features Peter Castro. You got Leany and Luppy in the first round. That's great. Neil, Purple Belt Mike, Weed and Rob from Glenhead. There's real animosity there. I mean, Cheats fan is Cheats fan. I mean, that is a tough region, that Hood region.
Love it.
Dan, I appreciate it, man. I'll see you later. Appreciate you hopping on, man.
Thank you.
Dan Essien with us. Badlands, huge Jet guy. Really good insight from him. All right, we're going to do – I can't speak. What we're going to do right now is take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Brandon Cristal, longtime radio host in Denver. Get his thoughts on Jets' new GM, Darren Muji, who he knows very well. Stay tuned for more. Back in a moment from the NFL Combine.
And the pick is in. Here to announce the 13th pick in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. Representing the Jake Osmond Show, here's Gator McCluskey. With the 13th pick, it looks like we have a trade with the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to pass out. The Packers send the Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers the 15th pick and a conditional 2025 second-round pick. The Jets send the 13th pick, quarterback Zach Wilson, along with 6 months of free Netflix, along with these Burger King coupons. And now for a special announcement from Jake Hasman.
There's consequences to saying dumb things on this show. FM, you're going to the Shadow Realm, bozo, for life. See you never. Let's get back to your calls right now. Let's go to Charles, who's up next on the Gusbuster Hotline. What's up, Charles?
Hey, Jake. Look, I was pleasantly surprised. Well, let me rephrase that. Just Dwayne Brown is a bit.
The Russian Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, and the General Chief of Staff, Vasily Gerasimov.
I'm sorry.
You have like some weird pain fetish.
I understand that, but
sorry, I am.
Oh my God.
Hypocrite's a bit much. And honestly, I don't.
No,
they don't need that.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
So what's up? You want me to give those senoritas your phone number?
I'm sorry.
It's killing me. I'm just muttering randomly, but honestly, I don't.
How did?
Sorry, I am just joking.
Oh my. Oh my God. How did Gator do that? Just that. Oh my. I mean, what a ridiculous video. I mean, there's no words. There's no words. I thought that was legitimately Charles on the line there. It just hilarious. I mean, I don't know what to say. All right, back to the calls we go. Assuming this is a real call, let's go to Craig, who's up next on the Gustbuster Hotline tonight. Craig, are you a real person or are you a robot?
Mate, I'm in Australia. Of course I'm real.
What's up, Craig?
Gator, is there anything you can't do? That's my question.
I mean, I was fooled there, man. Like, that was unreal. I thought I was going to Charles, and it was just wild what just happened there.
Hey, Robert, thanks for taking my question. With Zach starting again Sunday, does he have any compromising photos of you or someone else in the organization?
No, it's a fair question, Jake. I'm going to take the fifth on that one.
What the hell is this going backwards bullshit? You don't go backwards. You throw the ball out of bounds with your big goddamn arm.
And we're back here live from Radio Row at the NFL Combine. And joining us right now, I'm going to update the name tag here because it's not Dan Essien, but a veteran radio host in the Denver area. I've known this guy for a very long time.
Since you're in college.
That's right. He's now with Gorilla Sports. That's long-time sports talk show host Brandon Cristallo. And I got the idea to have you on because you were just chopping it up about Darren Mucci, who you know from being in Denver. And I was like, hey, save some of these stories. I want you to share with my audience instead with me on the air.
I'll save some of them. I don't need to share. I'll still save some of them because I don't necessarily want to betray any trusts. But I was excited when Mooj got the job, and he's had kind of a meteoric rise. He was brought into the franchise as a scout when he got into the business, when he was done with his playing career, by Matt Russell and John Elway, and worked out of Phoenix, his hometown, where he was a star high school quarterback and moved back after going to San Diego State. So you know how scouts work. They work an area, and then they come to Denver for draft meetings and all that. And then a couple of years ago, as George Payton was taking over full-time from John Elway and Matt Russell moves on, Dave Ziegler wants to hire Mooj because they'd worked together in Denver, and he liked Mooj's football knowledge, wants to bring him to New England. Well, the Broncos decided to move him from Phoenix to Denver and give him a better title, and he's in the mix with George, who's coming in with some of his staff from some people that he had brought with him from Minnesota or whatever. Then a year later, Dave Ziegler gets a job in Vegas and wants to hire Mooj out there. And so the Broncos block that and promote Mooj to assistant GM. Then Sean Payton comes in a year later, and I don't want to get too into the weeds, but, you know, Sean has the people he's worked with for a long time. Didn't bring hardly any on the personnel side because he worked with Mickey Loomis forever. And there's talk, is George Payton going to be here very long? Will the Penners let Sean do whatever he wants on the personnel side? He's certainly not reporting to George. But so Mooj is there as someone who isn't necessarily George's guy. Great relationship with George. George relied on him for a lot of things, and George talked about that and talking to people with the organization. There's a big hole now with Mooj leaving, but he's able to stand on his own 2 feet and carved out a nice relationship with Sean as well. So without knowing all the specifics, I know that Sean obviously has a really great relationship with Aaron Glenn. So I'm sure that he helped this marriage come together, without even knowing all the details. And then Rick Spielman, who with Mike Tannenbaum as part of the 33rd team with their consultancy, obviously Rick Spielman and George worked together for 14 years, and George thinks the world of Mooj. So he was able to, impress George enough that he wanted to help him move on, and impress Sean enough that Sean wanted to help him move on. So that kind of says a lot because neither guy really knew him from, stops prior. And so he was able to prove his value for George in 4 years and Sean the last 2. And now he's there running the show, at least on the personnel side with AG, and saying nothing at his press conference yesterday, which I gave him a hard time about.
Well, it's funny because I said this on the show yesterday. It was like his goal at the presser yesterday was to try and not create any headlines. It felt like he was a little nervous at first and then kind of got settled in. Do you think, just knowing him, he's got the right temperament, right personality to handle what comes with dealing with New York, the fans, the media pressure, all that?
Yeah, and look, so many people have tried and failed because we know the last time the Jets went to the Super Bowl, you weren't born. I'm older than you, and I wasn't born. We know how long that drought has been, and yeah, there was excitement here and there over the years with the Sanchez or other teams along the way, New York Sack Exchange, but never a true Super Bowl contender. Aaron Rodgers comes in, we know that obviously failed. But the one thing that I'll give Mooch credit, he brought it up off the top. He got asked 8 different ways, and he wasn't going to give any more. They've moved on, and he really doesn't have to address it anymore. Now, if their quarterback play is really bad next year and it's not a rookie that's just going through growing pains, then you can say, well, wouldn't you have been better off with Aaron Rodgers? Because odds are they might still have been, even though it's a transition. But also, and I told him this too, I said, well, you fired first ballot Hall of Famer as the first person you fired. So if you can fire Aaron Rodgers, you can fire anybody else going forward. Sure. Like the hardest one is right off the top. But I think that he's well regarded around the league. He and Kevin O'Connell are obviously really close. Kevin took his job at San Diego State, forcing Mujaf to move out to wide out because Kevin was a better quarterback. But I do think he has the right temperament. And I think he's a really good compliment to AG, who can be fiery. We know that. We know, you can tell in his personality from just watching him on the sidelines, certainly how he interacts. There's an intensity there. And Mooj he has that quarterback kind of even keel, like don't get too high, don't get too low, stay measured. And I think that's probably from being around George certainly helped that. Maybe, more so than being around, not that Matt Russell's not a good personality guy, but or has a good personality, but Matt's a linebacker. And John Elway was John Elway, like John Elway's a step beyond a measured quarterback. He's a top 5, top 8 kind of guy all the time. But so I think it's a really good fit for him. We all know, though, that the proof will be in the pudding, and he's either going to have the job for 3 years or for 10.
What do you think he maybe learned from this last year being in Denver, watching this team go from Russell Wilson, moving on, dealing with the cap stuff, right? The Jets are in almost a similar spot, moving on from Rodgers. Now, the quarterback class is not as good this year as it was last year, but Bo Nix wasn't thought to be, at this time last year, a guaranteed top 15 pick, and we know the story. So do you think Mooj being involved in all that is going to take some things he learned from that experience and maybe apply it with the Jets?
I think he has to, and he was asked that yesterday when he was on the podium about that exact thing, like you helping identify Bo Nix. And I'm not saying that he necessarily did, and depending on who you ask, that circle was tight. We know that Sean and George were involved, and I think Sean's let it be known that at some point they let Condoleezza Rice know. They read her in, so to speak, because she's been read in on a lot of stuff. And I think that was sort of the joke. Like, some of the stuff she's been read in on is not certainly a different level of importance because you're talking about matters of life and death, not who the Broncos QB is going to be. But I think the most valuable thing he probably learned just over the last couple of years being around Sean is what traits to look for in a quarterback. And again, being a former quarterback, he knows, what successful QB play looks like and what are the kind of the baseline attributes. So if they end up trading up from 7 or grabbing a quarterback at 7, and you would think that at least as it stands now, that has to be Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. If somehow Tyler Shook gets into that conversation or Jackson Dart, okay, you'll give him the benefit of the doubt till you don't. I mean, Jets fans know all about young quarterbacks that don't end up working out. But you'll hope that what he saw being around George, and that's the thing, that George is a good compliment to Sean, because Sean certainly can be fiery, and George Payton is very even-keeled. And George learned under Rick Spielman he got to run the draft one year. He ran free agency a bunch. Rick really kind of in that teaching hospital style let his staffers learn all the different things you need to do, but specifically George.
I have heard that Mooj, we'll call him Mooj, right?
Yeah.
By the way, that was
everyone calls him Mooj.
Well, that was a big debate in New York. It's like, is it Moogie, Moojie?
It's Moojie, and he goes by Mooj.
Yeah, it took us a while, but I think we have figured that out now in New York. But I was talking with someone today that said that Mooj has really relied on Spielman just kind of early on with just like getting started in this job, like what you have to do when you first arrive at a place.
That's obviously a really, strong resource to have, because Rick did it for a long time, won a bunch of games in Minnesota. That's one thing you realize when you come to the combine is the reverence that the league has, and people that have been in the league forever, that they have for guys who have done this job for a long time. So people in Denver skeptical of Sean Payton. It doesn't work out with Russell Wilson. Every single person I talked to here last year that's been in football for a long time, like, Sean's going to get it figured out. The fact that he was able to do what he did for 16 years, yes, he had a Hall of Fame quarterback, but they clearly helped each other. He kept the job for that long. When a guy like Kevin Colbert that was with the Steelers all those years and drafting all those good. When you have a job for a decade plus, you're going to be well regarded, especially in this league compared to some of the other leagues where basketball execs can keep a job for a long time. How long's Brian Cashman run the Yankees? And so if you can keep your job for a long time, that says something. Rick Spielman did it for a long time with the Vikings, and because he's a consultant now and has his role with the 33rd team as opposed to being in a building, because not that Mooch can't pick up the phone and call George or can't call Matt Russell, who's working in the front office in Philly, or can't reach out to John Elway. John, a little unconventional in how he got there and how he ran things, and that's okay because he's John Elway. But I imagine that Mooj reaching out to Rick is certainly at George's encouragement and understanding Rick wants to be helpful where he can.
They hired him full time. He's done full time with the
Well,
organization.
there you go. So, and that's just like when you see a head coach that hires, because I know AG hired a couple of veteran coaches.
Steve Wilkes is the DC.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you hire a guy that's been in the trenches, it can just be your sounding board. And so, yeah, Rick will, I'm sure, be invaluable with everything they want to do. Mooj and AG, I'm sure, have their shared vision. And that's really the biggest thing with a marriage like this is you want to make sure that they're working together, and they will be. And they didn't hire each other necessarily. And I guess you would maybe know better than me as far as what the final roster, who has final say. It feels like it's AG probably.
Yeah, I would say this. Like, it feels like it's a head coach-driven organization where if they ever did disagree, the tiebreaker would go to Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, and what we've seen in the couple of years just with George and Sean is, and you assume that that Sean will ultimately have the loudest voice, is that they haven't disagreed very often. Now, they do have different philosophies, and Rick and George have a similar philosophy of, hey, let's trade back and get as many picks as we need. And so you could make the case if you're not going quarterback at 7, if there's somebody that really wants to jump up there for whomever, Tyler Warren, and you can drop back to 9 or 10 and pick up another first rounder next year and a couple more picks this year or next, that's as valuable as anything else, because there are some good players in the top 10, but talking to the people that follow the draft maybe more closely than you or I do, it feels like 20 to 70 is really where that range is of quality players, not necessarily superstars. Those guys kind of come out of nowhere sometimes, but there's not like 25 guys with first round grades.
When you look at this Denver team a year ago, take us into what that season was like, because I remember the Jets played the Broncos. The Jets are coming in off a dominant win over the Patriots. They're 9.5-point favorites, and they lost one of the most disgusting games, as a Jet fan talking about this, that I have ever seen. They lose on the last second field goal. Rodgers gets completely banged up. He's not healthy for almost the rest of the season.
Did he get sacked 7 times in that game?
Yes. Tyron Smith, I just had nightmares of him allowing more pressure by JFM and everyone else.
When people tell me Tyron Smith's a Hall of Famer, I'm like, oh, okay, we'll see. And I grew up in Dallas. I cheer for the Cowboys, but we'll see.
But Bo Nix was so bad in that game. And
He was.
And I was thinking to myself,
And he was really good the week before in Tampa.
Right.
We finally saw him kind of have a coming out because the first 2 weeks they scored 6 points against the Steelers and weren't very good against the Seahawks in the opening week. It was an ugly game. It was
you guys just turned it around. What was this past season like? What do you guys? A year now into Bo Nix's career, is the feeling, hey, we got our franchise quarterback? Like, when was that moment watching him this year with Sean Payton that you saw with the Broncos?
It was the stretch in the middle of the season where they have the Chiefs lose that game, but then win 4 in a row after that, I think, if my math is right, and they beat the crap out of the Falcons, who were leading the division at that time. The Broncos actually won the NFC South. They were 4-0 against the NFC South. Now the Chiefs, I think, were as well. But and he just dices up the Falcons and wins Offensive Player of the Week in the NFL, or in the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. Which
how much of it
twice.
is like coaching?
A lot, absolutely. And really good coaches just get the best out of their quarterbacks. Look at what Alex Smith did with Andy Reid versus anywhere else that he was, or what Kyle Shanahan's able to do with just about any quarterback when they're healthy and functional. What Mike McDaniel does with Tua, and you realize how far that drop off is from Tua. But that was the biggest disconnect between Sean and Russ, is that it wasn't that Russ wasn't checking into the right play. It was that Russ was totally freelancing at times beyond even what the play was and what the check was to just do what Russ does. And so for someone like Sean, who designs all these awesome plays, and that's something Chris Sims said to me, and I like Chris Sims' quarterback knowledge as much as anyone. He said, you don't have Sean Payton to run 8 plays. You have him to run 8,000 plays and find all the mismatches. And so Bo has been such a fast learner and can process things so quickly that even if his skill set, in terms of his throwing tools, are in the middle of the pack, clearly at times they were better than people thought. Big throw on Monday night with Denzel Ward right there, 70 yards in the air to Marvin Mims in Cincinnati. It just got more comfortable for him, and they got more comfortable with what worked there. Marvin Mims, they figured out how to unlock and use him. The run game was almost non-existent throughout the year, but it was everything that got thrown at Bo. He was able to handle and get more comfortable with. Obviously, they look like garbage against the Bills, and they only had 40 snaps or whatever. And the defense was really good too. And a good defense is always going to be a quarterback's best friend. But yeah, they certainly feel Bo's the guy. And it's funny to hear whether you're talking to someone like Chris Sims, but I think both George and Sean were asked, "Is Bo Nix hit a ceiling as a 25-year-old?" I think he just turned 25 yesterday. And it's like, no, he's just going to get more comfortable in this offense and more comfortable in the NFL and have more weapons around him. And they're in that window now where they get past the $50 million in dead money. So even though they have $30 million in dead money, the way they've set up their cap.
How much was the cap it for Russ last year?
53 or whatever. And this year it's 30-ish. Maybe it's 35. They're still after they pay all their rookies, assuming their draft is normal and not crazy, they're still going to have $30 million in free agency, which, in reverse. But they have $30 million to play with right now. And that's without maybe, reworking Zach Allen or reworking Mike McGlinchey's deal to clear up even more cap space if they needed to. I don't think they need to because I don't think they want to kick the can down the road that much. I'm sure they're leery of what the Saints cap situation is, and they don't want too many voidable years. I think the Eagles are going to run into a problem with that here coming up, and that's probably why they're going to lose Zach Bond, who could be a Bronco. But so they took the big hit last year, and then this year they've got plenty of room, and next year they've got $100 million under the cap or something crazy. But Mooj watched the way their cap guy in Rich Hurtado works and how well that worked with George in that department. And so I think that he'll be able to use all the things he's learned and utilize them with the Jets. But we all know that if they don't get the quarterback right, it doesn't matter.
100%. And that's why I asked about Nix because, he obviously was a phenomenal overall as a rookie. It's like, I don't know if that's replicable because not every team has a Sean Payton, like the Jets offensive coordinator. I don't know who Tanner Angstrand is as an OC, and he's never done it before.
Right. And it's one of those things where you don't know until you know. It's for like a head coach even, or a president.
Yeah.
They act presidential or they act like, okay, well, that's fine, but let's see. And we've seen a million great coordinators be terrible head coaches. And sometimes it's a terrible situation with a terrible ownership group and not having a quarterback or not having the right continuity with the front office, by the time you get to year 2, where all of a sudden your visions aren't aligned. I think everybody's visions aligned in year 1 for the most part, as far as what they want. But I think that Mooj's ability to identify talent will help. And again, having someone like Rick Spielman there, and he brought over Robbie Payton, who is George's nephew and was in the Broncos organization before George got there. And so Robbie's worked in a bunch of different scouting roles, and so that'll be someone he'll rely on heavily, and he's going to have to rely on the Jet scouts. Like, it's not realistic to upend a scouting department, but we talk about an OC, you just don't know till he starts calling plays, and maybe he's the next Ben Johnson. You just don't know until. But what helped Ben Johnson was, they obviously hit on Jahmyr Gibbs, but then they also add Montgomery. You've got a top 5 wide receiver. You've got a top 5 tight end. You've got one of the best O-lines in football. Looking at the Jets and seeing both AG and Mooj up there, I imagine they're like, Mekhi Becton sure looked good at guard for the Eagles. And I understand why they've moved on, but in retrospect, if you had Mekhi Becton playing inside of Tyron Smith, that might be something for Breece Hall to be able to run behind. So anyway, it's obviously you move on to whatever you have now. I also think it's funny that, especially people in Denver, like, oh, we got to get Mooj to trade Garrett Wilson to the Broncos.
Yeah.
Like, you don't trade good young players. And he said that yesterday. That's the most honest thing he said.
He's
like,
going to extend Garrett
Yeah,
Wilson.
we're not going to trade good young players. Sauce is going to be the highest paid defensive back of all time. We saw how happy he was the second PS2 got paid.
Yeah.
Sauce was one of the first on social media on that Tuesday to tweet, congrats and money emojis or whatever it was. Sauce is going to get extended. Garrett Wilson absolutely should get extended. And I think Breece Hall, you have to figure out what the value of the running back is. But I think Breece Hall should be there on a nice contract, $12 million a year, $10 million a year, whatever, that market ends up being. Because, you don't want to trade good young players. It doesn't make sense.
Let me ask you about a guy that this fan base knows very well. Was there any buzz about Zach Wilson at all this year in Denver?
The buzz was that quarterback rehab certainly helped him. And being thrown into the situation he was in New York and having all the changes, and then having Aaron Rodgers come in, and instead of that being a good thing for him to learn behind, or see the way Aaron operates, for all of Aaron's idiosyncrasies and quirks, we know that he's one of the 2 or 3 best throwers of the football we've ever seen. So clearly his routine Sunday to Sunday is going to be replicable, you would think, by a young, talented player. But so he comes to Denver with zero pressure. He looks good in the preseason. He probably looked the best in practice of the 3 throughout the early part of practice. I don't recommend this to anyone, no matter how much you love gambling, do not gamble on the preseason. But I gambled on not 1, but 2 preseason games in one, because the Broncos practiced with the Packers and the Packers backups were bad. And that's why they made a trade and changed their backup situation behind Jordan Love. And so, but their backups across the board were bad. So their starters weren't playing. So I bet on, because they're game planning for Bo Nix on offense. Like Sean wants them to win the job and look good. So I bet on them. And then I bet again in the second half because Zach Wilson was coming in. I'm like, Zach Wilson's had 34 starts and diced up these dudes on Friday. And it was even worse. So I won. I made 2 bets in that preseason game. And then I knew Zach was going to play the whole game just about after Stidham got 2 series in that final preseason game. And I'm like, these dudes are going to be coaching high school football next week. Like, these guys aren't even going to be practice squad guys. And so I think Zach would be well served to stay there, only because you could argue that if you're only going to keep one of them, you're not going to pay them both $5 million to be a backup. So you keep one of them, Stidham or Zach. But Zach, it's another year around Sean and Joe Lombardi and Pete Carmichael. Less pressure, but a good team that's on the rise.
Do they want him back though? Like, did he do enough where they
take
him back as the backup?
I do think they want him back. I think it's just a question of which one of them they're not going to have both of them back. And these dudes all liked each other. Like, they're on vacation in Cabo, the 3 quarterbacks and their wives, and Mike McGlinchey and his wife. And then Sean Payton's down in Cabo. They end up all having dinner together and all that. And Sean, touched on how close they are, that's not normal necessarily. The guys get along, but that they don't always, aren't that close where they're vacationing together. But you have to think that once these quarterback dominoes fall, we figure out where Sam Darnold goes and where Aaron Rodgers ends up, and does Russell Wilson end up on a team, Justin Fields, plus the rookies, what's the situation that makes sense for Zach Wilson? Is someone going to bring him in to compete? Would the Colts bring him in to compete with Anthony Richardson? I'm not saying they will or won't. That, though, is maybe more appealing because of what the Colts have to throw to, and you can legitimately win the job. I don't know what their
I just don't know if
plan
he's going to get a chance to compete for a job.
Well, it has to be the right place, and if you believe Chris Ballard saying it's going to be an open competition, because they understand that if Anthony Richardson turns out to be good real quick, they'll keep their jobs, and if they don't, they won't. So if there's another quarterback that can legitimately beat him out, which probably isn't that hard to do in terms of having consistent practices and looking good in preseason, that maybe a place like this that has a pretty good defense, has a Pro Bowler at all 3 levels, has 3 good pass catchers, has a top 5 kind of running back in JT, that might make sense for Zach Wilson. But he's so far down the list of the dominoes, and maybe Jarrett Stidham thinks this is the right opportunity, and he ends up here for whatever reason, and Zach stays there. And if Bo Nix gets banged up, then Zach's comfortable. They're comfortable with him. So that's why staying isn't the worst thing. But if there's a place he can go compete, it doesn't seem like he's done with being a starting quarter. Like, the final chapter in his career, story isn't written yet.
It would kill me if he ends up being good because
with Geno and Sam Darnold now to have 3 for 3.
But I always thought Sam was good and was failed by the Jets. I was on that side. Like I
then Carolina too. All of it made sense. Like, crappy organization, crappy handling, another crappy organization.
Like, Sam showed a lot more than Zach ever did. Zach, contrary to popular belief, Zach had an elite defense helping him. He had Breece Hall. He had Garrett Wilson. He had enough players around him for the team. If he was just a little better, to have been in the playoffs in 2023. They won 7 games with the 32nd ranked off. And also
our pal Nathaniel Hackett, that didn't go great either.
It's just, I don't know. He doesn't process the field. Like, that was the physical traits here. There, you can see why they fell in love with him. But it's just, that would personally kill me because it will tell me I know nothing about anything if he goes somewhere else and has like a Sam Darnold-like resurgence.
But it kind of goes back to what we were saying as far as the play caller. And if you're with one of these handful of truly elite play callers, and I don't know if Shane Steichen is or isn't. It helps when Jalen Hurts is so unique and he got the best out of him, although then Jalen replicated it this year more than last. And so I'm still not 100% sold on Jalen, but it's hard to argue against him. But you talk about guys like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Mike. Like, if I'm Zach Wilson, I might look at the Dolphins because you just don't know what you have with Tua and his skill set
That's
in
actually
that
a good spot for him to
in
learn to
that
play.
offense
Yeah.
with Mike. I get that everything's designed behind a left-handed quarterback, but we just know what Tua's injury history is. No one wants him to miss another game. We'd all love to see him play for a decade and, get in that Hall of Fame conversation. I understand Jets fans don't want to see the Dolphins win. I'm just talking about he seems like a great kid, and the people that are around him seem, he's all about the right things. Great. But if I'm Zach Wilson, that might make sense because of what that offense is and how smart Mike is. And so if I'm him, I'm thinking about going to a place like that versus, say, if the Jags called and want him to back up Trevor Lawrence because they're not sold on Trevor Lawrence. Like, I don't know if Liam Cohen's a good coach.
Duval.
Yeah, he's getting it. He's finally, I think
he's
just watch The Good Place, and you get the biggest Jags fan in the world, and you learn how to say Duval. But either way, I enjoyed my interactions with Zach in the locker room. It was funny because his brother came to town with Utah to play the Buffs, and it was not a great day because his brother shouldn't have been they were down to he was like the third stringer as a true freshman. But the game, it was a 10 o'clock kick, and Broncos had a walk through. So even when you're the third quarterback and you're not even going to dress the next day, you can't skip it just to go watch your little brother get his teeth kicked in Boulder. But Zach, when you talk to him, he's easy to talk to. Easy to kind of pull for.
He's not a bad kid.
It's a tough situation, and it didn't work out. When you're right, he had pieces in place, especially when you talk about Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, and I think the more than functional tight end and Tyler Conklin are above average tight end there. And a solid O-line and a really good defense. That should have been better, and it wasn't. But I don't know if anybody thought that Geno would get to where he got in Seattle, and that not everybody thought Sam Darnold was going to do what he did this year.
No, I mean, I didn't expect this. I just thought that if in the right situation, I thought he'd be a good quarterback.
Yeah, and so it's going to be fun to see. I still don't think we have that many good quarterbacks in the league. All right, there's 360-ish million people in America, and we can't find 32 good quarterbacks. But there are a lot more. There aren't as many terrible quarterbacks starting in the NFL. And guys didn't get hurt as much. Like last year, remember how hurt everybody was and how many different quarterbacks played? It was nice to see guys stay healthy, see Joe Burrow stay healthy, see those guys stay healthy. But let's see if Shador and Cam Ward and Jackson Dart can do anything. I don't know. Some people really like Shador. Some people aren't sold, and some people don't like him. But I think in New York at 7, that wouldn't be the worst. That wouldn't be the worst draft pick if he's still sitting there. If he gets past the Raiders and past anybody else.
Give me Cam Ward in a trade up.
I think that works. And as silly as it sounds, he might be able to trade with the Giants if they end up trading for Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
And so the Giants, I think, would happily drop, not happily, but go from 3 to 7, pick up some more capital that they will have just lost trading for Matt Stafford. And then you get to 3. I don't know if that's enough to get to Cam Ward. A lot of it depends on what the Titans and Browns want to do. It sounds like the Browns aren't in a hurry to go quarterback. And the Titans, I think, are. If I'm the Titans, I'm trading out of one. I need as many good draft. Like that's just not a good roster. And
especially if the Giants want to flip you a couple extra picks to move up 2 spots, and then you still can get either Hunter or 100%.
Yeah, if that's right. If that's your consolation, if the Giants want to be able to dictate the draft, in order to do that, though, you probably are giving up next year's 1 or at least
move 2 spots.
It's a lot of points. It might be this year's 2 and next year's 2, or 2 and 3 this year and next year's 2.
What the Bears give up when they went from 3 to 2 with the Niners to get Trubisky?
That's probably a good model to look at. Or what the Niners get. Niners gave up 3 number 1s to get.
That was from 15 to 3.
To get from 15 to 3.
Funny enough, they wanted Zach Wilson. The Jets said no.
Yeah,
they want to trade out of 2.
Yeah. Ended up being just a bad class all the way around. What Mac Jones has become and Justin Fields. PS2 though, that was a good pick by the Broncos.
Yeah, hopefully Darren Mooney can channel some of that.
Defensive player of the year. But it feels like if you were to compare the Giants and Jets rosters, I like the Jets roster better than the Giants, top to bottom. And so that's why it's interesting that the Giants are so hell-bent on the idea of trading for Stafford, if you believe some of these
because
reports.
they have a coach and GM that knows if they don't win, they're getting fired.
Yeah, and so give us a veteran quarterback who will at least
give us a chance.
Give us a chance and not cost us games. And we know how good Stafford is under duress and when things aren't going well, because it's been his whole career for the most part. And maybe they end up with Cooper Kupp also, But either way, it's going to be a fun next 6 weeks. I dubbed it the lying season, which has certainly taken off. But if you go back and look on Twitter, I think I was the first person to call this time of the year the lying season. So
That was you?
I don't think I get any credit
You're
for
the guy?
it, but maybe you can help spread it. If you go on Twitter and look up lying season and anybody in our business that used it first, I think, it was about 5 or 6 years ago when I was here. Because you talk to some of these people and they're like, Sean Payton being a good example. He was telling people that he thought would be loud how much he liked J.J. McCarthy, and they were. And he secretly loved Bo Nix. So you can only believe so much of what these people say here.
Brandon, appreciate you hopping on. Tell people where they can find you.
So guerrillasports.net is our website. It's a new digital platform based in Denver, although we do a lot of cool stuff, including a show with Browns defensive lineman Shelby Harris and 2 Super Bowl champions, Ryan Harris, who does color on Notre Dame broadcasts and does some Westwood One stuff, and then Chris Harris Jr., who was an all-decade player as the corner opposite of Aqib Talib on those Broncos teams. They both won Super Bowl 50, so it's called We're the Harrises. And then I've got a new football show coming called #Football, because that's how clever I am. That was the best name I could come up with.
You're very hip with the times.
It'll be good for SEO. But at BK Denver Sports is all my social handles, or my social handle on all the social channels. But it was great talking to you, Jake. I'm so happy that you made it back to New York. I met you when you were in college at the Super Bowl in Houston in 2016, and
That's where I ended up living for 6 years too.
And then you loved it so much, but you've had to grind your way back to the Big Apple, and now to see the success you're having with this and with the ESPN radio stuff, it's awesome.
I appreciate it, man. Well, thanks for hopping on. Thanks for giving us good insight on Darren Muji.
Yeah, Muji
is our guy.
Here's a fun fact. His brother's a golf agent,
Really?
Rob, and he represents, among other people, Wyndham Clark, who won the U.S. Open a couple years ago. Denver kid, went to high school with Christian McCaffrey at one of the more prominent schools in Denver. And so a couple years ago at the Combine, Rob's agency was maybe going to get into football. So I run into Mooj, and he's like, "Hey, it's my brother Rob. He's he's a golf agent or whatever. He lives down in Phoenix, but their company's trying to do football, whatever." And he's like, "Hey, but I have Wyndham Clark. He's a Denver kid." And I'm like, "Okay," not really knowing who Wyndham Clark was. Fast forward to 18 months later, Wyndham wins the U.S. Open, and I have one of the producers at the station I was working. I go, "Hey, do you have any lines to Wyndham Clark?" And I'm like, "Well, start at the high school, see what the coach said, And I'm like, "Wait, is Mooj's brother his agent?" So I go and find Mooj's brother's social stuff, and Wyndham Clark's all over it. I'm like, holy crap. Rob Muji is Wyndham Clark's agent. And so I'm like, "Hey, Mooj, give me your brother's number." And he helped coordinate it, and it was really cool. But yeah, so Mooj doesn't even play golf. He's all football, and he's in the office. Like, he's not a guy that's hitting the golf course some. He's not a golfer. His brother, you're a golf agent. His brother plays a lot of golf. But yeah, so his brother's and he has a lot more people than just Wyndham Clark. But
very cool.
Yeah, so there you go. Fun little anecdote.
A little nugget on the way out. He's Brandon. I'm Jake. We'll take a quick break. If you're on hold, we will get to your calls. Take more raffle entries for Friday's raffle on the show. Keep it right here. Jake Asman with you, live from the NFL Combine here in Indy.
Is there any truth to the rumor you're having Knoble on your show?
Maybe.
Who the fuck do you think you are, Charles? I'm the Canobly, and I'm playing for the Jets next year. You better get used to it, motherfucker, because I'm coming to get you.
Did you see the interview we did with Knoble yesterday when he called in?
No, I did not.
I'm just kidding, Charles. I love you, man. You're the greatest. I just want to be your friend, okay? So please be my friend. Motherfucker!
All right. Charles, thank you for the time today. Last night on a radio station in this town known as The Fan, WFAN, Keith McPherson took a call from Bobby Midnight, who wanted to ask some questions about Knoble.
All right, let's go back to Bob in Vermont.
I wanted to ask you, what do you think the Jets and Giants will do on the draft, your choices? And also, do you ever hear of a player from college called Knoble?
Knoble? From what school?
College.
Yeah, but what college?
It's just college. Do you ever hear that guy's name?
No, I've never heard of Knoble from college. Knoble from college? What position does he play?
He plays offense and defense.
He plays offense and defense? He's a two-way guy?
Yep, that's what he said.
How do you spell the last name?
Knoble. I can't remember how you spell it. It starts with K, I know that.
Okay, because I'm spelling it wrong on Google.
No, Knoble.
Thanks for the call, Bob. I do not know who Knoble is. Maybe somebody listening knows of a player, a two-way player coming out of college that gives you like 300 options. I'm looking at Zoo. He's just laughing. I'm trying to find out. A two-way player plays offense and defense. Knoble is coming.
You ever hear of Knoble?
There were two listeners of mine who called WFAN asking two separate hosts if the Jets should take Knoble, and each host was like, they were stumped. They're like, I haven't done enough draft prep. I'm unaware. And they're reciting lines from the show.
John and Seaford, what's up, bud?
A lot of these Jets fans out there want Brock Bowers.
Yes, that is the sexy name surrounding the Jets.
I think the three options you go, O-line, receiver, or if Knoble out of college is there, you got to take Knoble. 5'7", 198, plays both sides of the ball. Not sure if you know him. Mel Kiper had him top 15 pick. What are your thoughts on Knoble?
I don't know him that well. I'll be totally honest with you. Bro, I got to do more draft prep. You said he plays both sides of the ball. Makes me think, who plays both sides of the ball in the NFL?
We now have Knoble's testing numbers. There's a reason why Knoble has skyrocketed off the draft boards here. He has tremendous testing numbers. It's tremendous. The only knock on Knoble is he's 5'7", 198. But he's a two-way player. He can play both sides of the ball. And if you were listening to WFAN last night, it was Rob from Glenhead, not Johnny Quest impersonating Rob from Glenhead, called in to ask FAN host Keith McPherson if the Jets should consider this Knoble guy.
Let's go to Rob in Glenhead first up on the Fan.
Well, yeah, I'm out right now. My friend Neil Chipotle just chilling out, talking Jets, smoking cigars. I was listening yesterday to your show. The guy Bobby from Vermont called up about this guy Knoble. Yeah, I think I found out who he was talking about.
Okay, what college? What school?
I didn't get that, but there was an NFL Network did a spotlight on him. Neil, look up the college this kid went to. So it's pronounced Knoble when he was in an island, but then they changed to Knoble when he came over. They were talking about. I think his brother was a 7th round pick in like 2022. Dude, the kid. I don't know if he's going to go in the first round, but he plays receiver and nickel corner. His stats are crazy.
Do you know how to spell his last name? I have not heard of this kid.
Knoble. Neil, look it up. I can't spell shit. 40-yard dash, 4.3. Cone drill, 6.41. I don't even know if that's good. You know, you're an athlete. Is that good?
I guess 6.41. It could be faster.
Vertical, 47.
No, that's ridiculous.
The fact is this: if you're getting a receiver and a nickel, if he plays receiver, we need a receiver, right? Because Lazard's terrible. And if he's nickel corner, we have Michael Carter, who I think is going to be a free agent next year. You can't afford him, so you replace him.
I don't know, but that's what confused me yesterday. We're talking about a two-way player getting drafted and expected to play both ways?
Yeah, dude. I never heard of it, so I saw it on the NFL Network. And then when Bobby was talking about it, I'm like, that sounds familiar. I looked it up. The crazy thing, he's from like some small island near Hawaii. They have like 350 kids. It was like 13 kids on his high school team. That's why he went both ways. I know most times in New York and New Jersey, everyone goes both ways.
In high school, yeah, but in college, that's why I'm like, I haven't been watching NFL Network. If
they can get this kid in the first, I don't think he's going to fall to 10, and maybe the Giants. Maybe the Cowboys get him. Where the Cowboys pick him?
24, they're cooked.
He'll probably be gone by then.
Do you know the spelling of his name?
Oh, Neil, you got that name?
Yeah, here
all
it
right.
is.
K-A.
Yep.
N-O.
Yep.
B-L-E. I'm going to hang up and listen, Keith. Be good, all right?
Yeah, thanks for the call. So we were talking last night. Yeah, Bob from Vermont called in, was talking about this kid, and I never heard of him. Knoble NFL draft? Nah, you guys got to be trolling me. This is like the tale of like, I don't know, like a Bigfoot or something. Like this is a two-way player that plays wide receiver, nickel corner. He's got a 47-inch vertical. I haven't heard of the guy, but I don't think two different calls would call about this Knoble guy.
How did you hold it together, man? I'm dying. My ribs hurt from laughing at that.
I was just pacing back and forth, trying to get as much shit out as I could, dude. That green cone, the 6.41, I had no clue if that was good. That's why I asked him. Meanwhile, I looked it up after. That's a really good time. He's like, oh, we could be better than that. 47 vertical is ridiculous. My son was like, Dad, 47? I'm like, I don't know. I just made it up. Like, he kind of almost like, he's like, oh, it's fake. But he's like, no, it's got to be real.
And I'm getting like listeners like tweeting me graphics of like Knoble in a Jets jersey being like 1 week from today.
Bobby, good morning. How are you?
First, the Jets, okay? Mm-hmm. I wanted to see what you think about the Jets draft choice, and I got a choice that you might wanted to hear from. Like Knoble from college, he's supposed to be good. He plays both ways. He's from college. Do you ever hear of the guy?
Bob, you know what? I got to be honest with you, and I thank you for the phone call. There's a lot of guys who play in college. I'm not familiar with that name that you threw out there, to be quite honest with you. You guys know who he was talking about? Because it totally escaped my mind. The two-way prospect playing Ironman football, which, like I said, not too familiar with there.
It went on so much further than I ever thought could be possible. It's some of the best shit I've ever seen.
Plenty on the table. Up to Vermont we go. It's Bob. It's the fan. What's going on, Bobby?
Hey, Moose, I heard about this player called Knoble from college. Do you ever hear Knoble from college?
No, who's that?
His name is Knoble. He plays both ways from college.
No, I don't know who you're talking about.
You never heard of Knoble?
No. And Bob, thanks a lot for the call. It's been forever.
This whole thing just happened so organic.
And we're back here at the Combine. Jake Asman with you. Thanks again to Brandon Cristal and Dan Essian for joining us here on the channel. And it's funny watching the clips there of Knoble and reliving that. Because we have Travis Hunter this year, and he's a two-way player. He can play both sides of the ball. Lane Train was ahead of his time. He really was. All right, let's get to some of your calls. I appreciate everyone who's tuned in here. If you missed any of our interviews this week, just go back, check out the channel. We've had a lot of great ones. Going to really start to dive into draft coverage over the next couple of days. I'm working on a few big names for you. Yesterday we gave you Rap Sheet, Connor Rogers, Antoine Staley, Will, Nick Faria. Today we've given you Paul, Dan from Badlands. We just had Brandon Cristal. Tomorrow we're expected to be joined by both Brian Costello and Connor Hughes for more insight on the Jets and some other big names as well. Let's get to calls now. Gusbuster Hotline, the place to be. And we say hello to Kyle Clifton, who's first today. What's up, Kyle?
What's going on, Jake? I want my GM to be very closed-mouthed and give us nothing in the pressers. I'm hoping that Glenn is going to be a little bit more forthright than Sala was, or at least he'll be a little bit like Parcells in that he'll use the media to get his message across, like he did with Terry Glenn in New England. Like if we're asking him questions about why Malachi Corley isn't going to play, and he's honest with us, and he puts the spotlight on Corley, he just doesn't know his routes yet, and it's his second year in the league. He's got to clean that up. I mean, maybe that'll help Corley become a better player. I don't know. But I don't expect much from the GM, I think is the bottom line. I expect a lot more in these pressers from the coach because they're involved in the day-to-day and a little bit more hands-on. Did you see that, Stafford was people were supposedly meeting with the Giants there in Indianapolis?
Yes, the Giants met with Matt Stafford's representation.
So I don't know where I saw it, but maybe it was McAfee or something. They were kind of saying that it was starting to look a little bit like maybe Rodgers wouldn't have a seat. Like retirement was more like increasingly an option. I know he wants to play, but do you think that could possibly happen where these teams just decide like we did to go in a different direction?
Yeah, there's just no obvious spot. I mean, it certainly could, Kyle. I would say that if he doesn't find a home right away, I don't rule out. I know Rappaport kind of shut down this theory of waiting for an injury, like what Ryan Tannehill did, but I could see that. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world that he kind of just hangs out and waits for some openings this summer because I think he still doesn't want to play. I just don't see Rodgers coming out announcing he's retired.
Yep. And my last point, I'm going to hang up and watch the rest of the show, is I'm hopeful that Charles does call in sometime during the rest of the show, and I'm hoping that the energy level is much improved. Thanks for your time, Jake.
I agree. By the way, Kyle, do you think the Zippergate stuff is going to help or hurt your candidacy in this tournament?
I think Zippergate is not a event when it comes to my candidacy, quite frankly, Jake. Some people, it's not something that comes up all the time. I understand.
Phenom hasn't called in, by the way. I'm starting to think he maybe doesn't watch the show anymore. I don't know.
No, I mean, I don't think Phenom's afraid of me. I think that he's, a capable caller, and he's relishing the matchup if he's at all aware of it. But I'm looking forward to it very much so. And but I can't have Charles, busting my bracket with this lackadaisical attitude.
Totally fair, Kyle. Excellent call. I appreciate it. Kyle's in a very interesting region as well.
The train region features V-Man, who we've yet to hear from as well. And V-Man's a 2 seed in it. The 3 seed in the region is the underrated Mr. Bonesy. If you're picking a 3 that could go on a run, I think Bonesy's a really good 3. I think Allen's going down in round 1. I think Neal's a really good 3. I think King Lowski's a really good 3. I think 3 of the 4 3 seeds could go on runs. Comments, questions, super chats. We'll cut the line. Appreciate all the support from the audience. Let's get to more of your calls right now. One of our guests at the beginning of the show, Dan Essian, has this guy not just doing well in Asmaniac Madness, but has this guy winning the whole damn thing in his bracket pool. Ladies and gentlemen, David T.
I got my Iron UG. I hope you like my Jets take. You know they call me David T. It's not easy for me to see, but if you bring me full stream, you might like what I had to say. I'll need to get real damn close, cause my vision is dog shit.
Right, Jake, I won't keep you on long. I know you have a lot of people want to talk to you. Let me see here. Your a guest that was on this morning, his first name was Paul. I think he had an Irish name. I can't think of his last name. But Justin Fields, he brought stats on Justin Fields. And so maybe not fast enough, which might be a good thing. He's progressively getting a little bit better. So I'm comparing him to Lamar Jackson. That maybe they get the running game going and everything. It can open things up. And the other thing he said that really intrigued me was maybe quarterbacks in the later rounds, like three of the big boys, like 6'5", 6'6", and whatever talent they have, but to get into their heads, they're intelligent, not intelligent, but I mean be able to do the football thing, read defenses and get into their heads. That was intriguing to me.
I definitely like the idea of Fields if we're going to take a swing on someone with potential upside. I don't expect him to be great. I just have never been sold on him, but I didn't think Baker and Sam Darnold were going to have the seasons they put together, right? I mean, like, you just never know. And Fields has talent. He's apparently coachable. He's a good leader. Like, if that's who they signed, I'd be in. And the guest you're thinking of, by the way, is Paul Kilgallen from Badlands, and he's a big fan of yours as well, David. So that's awesome that you tuned in.
Yes, and as far as Sam Darnold goes, Jake, I didn't expect. I figured, boy, you know what? I liked him, and I figured, this guy's going to be a backup quarterback for the next 5-10 years, and I didn't really expect him to progress the way he did. But I think a lot of that is to do with coaching, to be honest with you.
Yeah, coaching, I think, is the biggest thing. I mean, we don't know what Tanner Engstrand is yet, but I'm hoping that some of Ben Johnson can rub off on him. I'll tell you what, it was interesting listening to Glenn yesterday being asked about Engstrand, and he went out of his way to say it's not all just Ben Johnson. Like, Tanner had a lot to do with that offense. Let's hope that's true.
Yep, we can't live without hope, Jake. That's about it.
David, you're the man.
Thank you.
I got my Iron UG. I hope you like my Jets take. You know they call me David T. It's not easy for me to see. Sometimes when I have a few drinks, I slip and fall and break my face. Not that my vision was bad enough. Now I have this dog shit scar.
David T, everybody. One of the greats. Speaking of greats, David Atkins is in the Asmaniac raffle with 5 more entries.
We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hell yeah. HC0023, Joe Fliz, Planet for Us, SONY17, and Josh Ellis, all receiving channel memberships there from David Atkins. Thank you, David. All memberships go towards tonight's dinner fund, folks. What will I be consuming tonight? I don't know. Tell you what, the decision I made to have late night Taco Bell last night was not a good one this morning. And I will leave it at that. Super chat from Matthew, who writes in, do the Jets employ a sports psychologist? I keep seeing our young quarterbacks, think Sanchez and Wilson, struggling with confidence. How are we addressing that? I don't know if they do, Matthew, but you want to know how you help a young quarterback that struggles with confidence? Coach him up. A coach can also kind of be like a psychologist for a player. Got to give these guys real coaching. See, the problem with Wilson was I just don't think he has it between the ears. Like I think the Jets put him in positions to have success. He couldn't do it. I'm not saying it was perfect, but I think, you look at like Darnold. Like Darnold was put in a terrible situation, but he showed a lot more than Zach ever did with way less. Sanchez was put in a great situation. I think he started to lose his confidence when he didn't have the roster. Right? They get rid of Jericho Kachi. They replace him with Derek Mason. They get rid of Braylon Edwards. They replace him with Plaxico Burress. That was the beginning of the end. Purple Belt Mike with a super chat. Is it true G5 wants an extension? I think he wants to be paid. I know Zach Rosenblatt had a report today that Garrett wants an extension. Yeah, he wants to be paid. Garrett Wilson doesn't want to leave the Jets. He wants to be paid. I've said this. And I think he truly wants to be here and be part of a turnaround. He's the guy you pay. Ladies and gentlemen, a super chat from the Gabagool, who says, Unleash the Beast. Beastbreaker wrote in that he's got a new BMAC theme song. Well, Beast, the problem is if you try and sing, your internet connection will be awful. But I'm all about trying things. I'm all about putting yourself out there. So I'm willing to give you a chance.
Beastbreaker. 666 $50 will send his ass to the hole where there's no gabagool.
Be back. Look at my internet. Be back. I got so cheapy. Be back. Look at my cheapy, crappy, dog shit internet. I can't do nothing about it. Be back. You're so cheap. Be back. You don't know how to spend. Be back. You're just cheapy ass dog shit internet cock watered bag weasel head. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Yeah. We're good. We're clear. We're clear. Next alert. Or, you know what? Let's do this. Oh, shit. My mistake. Let's get back up to the bat. Bye, Burger. See you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, does that help or hurt Dave Briga's candidacy in his matchup against the Beast? That's the question. That is a fascinating 15-2 in the opening round. You talk about a great matchup in the Chicken Soup region. That 215, the last matchup of that region. Right, 'cause the tournament starts Saturday with Gorman versus Chris G. Sunday will feature Jason in Jerusalem, Johnny Boy. Monday morning, first show, JJ June, the GM. Monday morning or Monday afternoon, JJ June, the Big Fella and Paul. I mean, so you do the math here. Beastbreaker versus Briga is coming up. We'll get to that by the end of next week. Bill M says, Briga doesn't need the help. Reese says, Briga is cooked. Chris says, Beast greater than Briga. This could be fascinating. Couple super chats here. Hennessy says, Beast will get knocked out round one guaranteed.
Ricky says, Jake, where's the call-in link? Is the call-in link not pinned? I apologize. I didn't realize that. I'm going to post it right now and pin it. Super chat here. Thunderlips, he cuts the line. Shefty said on McAfee today, a lot of the beat writers go out drinking, and he's seen some fights over the years. Ever see a physical fight? This is only my second combine, but I have not seen any fights between writers or football folks or anything. I have not. Hey, Cody, have you ever seen a beat writer fight at the combine? Yeah? Thanks for the time. Courtney! Hi. Let's see. Comments, questions, super chats here. Let's see. No, I've never seen a physical fight. Neither has Cody Thunderlips. He's been to more combines than me. This is his third. Is anyone else I can ask that question? Let's see. I'm not sure. Doesn't look like it. Hey, Aaron. Aaron Wilson. Come here. I need your help. Okay, I'll get to the bottom of this for you. Thunderlips. Aaron's been to more combines than I probably have been alive. Sit down for a moment. I got some questions for you. Yeah, we're actually live right now, so everything you say will be recorded and can and probably will be used against you. Aaron Wilson joins us now. He's one of my good friends from my Houston days. Cody, look how he put this headset on. You put it on backwards. Come on.
I don't use headsets much.
There you go. You cover the Texans. You cover the NFL. You covered the Ravens. You know Joe Douglas very well. We don't need to talk about that. One of my listeners asked me, have I ever seen a beat writer fight or a reporter on reporter fight at the combine? And I said, this is only my second one. I've never seen it. You have been to how many combines now?
Oh, boy. Over 20.
Over 20.
I haven't seen a beat writer fight.
Have you seen any media fights?
No.
Any bar fights?
I've seen, and there was one last year. I don't want to say their names, and there was a argument last night with some agents.
Oh, really?
Usually it's agents. It's not reporters. Usually the reporters get along. I haven't seen a lot of reporter beef, like anything other than, maybe talking a little stuff about each other. But yeah, no, I haven't seen like a shoving match or anything or name calling. Sometimes at the Prime Bar, people seem like they don't want to get out of people's way. Maybe a little shoulder, people bump into each other. But yeah, I've managed to stay out of the fray. I've been coming to this for 2 decades. And
No fights
I've never had a fight. Usually people are just very friendly, especially the people here from Indiana. I think that for whatever reason, this is the time when a lot of the recriminations and accusations about client stealing, it comes to a head because they sometimes have had some alcohol and guys are fired up about things that have gone on in the business. So yeah, the agent game, just specific to this question, that's more the feisty bunch. And there's been fights. There was a fight at the Super Bowl between 2 guys that were working together, and they were completely inebriated, and then they wound up dissolving their partnership. So yes, agent fights, absolutely. Seen them, heard of them, know about them.
You've never been involved in one, though?
No. I a lot of friends.
You're a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah, nice guy. I think I've had a few people tell me, hey, you look kind of intense. You look a little mean.
Yeah. When I first moved to Houston, I was like, this guy Aaron looks mean. I don't know if we're going to get along.
I just, for whatever reason, I guess I'm intense. I'm sort of serious about the job. But, I like to have a good time with, just joke around a little bit. I think at first, yeah, just a little not going to open up to people and just be a little guarded. And then once I get to know you, yeah, we're boys like we are. Yeah.
Any notes on the Jets you could share with the audience?
Yeah, in the Jets situation, one of the things I think a lot of people are really gathering, they're doing the opposite when it comes to media, which is to be less cooperative, more really insular about how information gets out. They felt like, and I think they agreed with Aaron Rodgers, that too much would get out. And so they're tightening things up. And I know there have been less information getting out. Not every single thing gets out there, including some of the more gossipy items. I think not having Aaron will cut down on some of the, reporters probably seeking things out. there's just not as much going on or as much palace intrigue. And that's one of the big things that people have said here at the Combine is the Jets seem like they're just like, let's just put our heads down. Let's just do our work. Let's not try to get the media to pat us on the back. We haven't done anything yet. I mean, they're really starting from scratch. And I think with Glenn, it's going to be definitely a roll up your sleeves mentality. Everybody talks about that with Aaron. He's a Houston guy. Very, very serious, very hard worker, very intense guy. He's not like Dan Campbell style animated, but he's no less intense. And I think he'll bring an edge to the Jets. I think with the general manager, he's going to probably have to change his style from Denver. Denver's a little more open, and it's going to be a little bit different. I expect that to be the way, the standard operating procedure in New York for a little while now, maybe longer. But I just think it's really, it got out of hand with too many people talking, too many voices, and I'm not going to do source hunt or guess, but I mean, obviously, there's some of the people that aren't there anymore or some of the leagues. So.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on a particular national reporter who seemingly is supposed to cover all 32 teams, but seemingly only covers one team, that being the New York Jets?
Oh, okay. I think I might know you're hinting at. I think it's
Oh, yeah?
interesting. I think with all these things, it always comes back to relationships, but I also think that the Jets are a sort of force multiplier because it's New York. It's the Big Apple. It's the Jets. And it's just a lot spicier than, say, like the New York Giants. And they tend to be a focus. But for some people, when you look at a team, that can be an opportunity to get more attention, more clicks, more views, and sell more subscriptions, things like that. So, and some of these, nationals will be based in the East Coast very often. So yeah, I think I know what you're hitting at, what you're talking about. I'm definitely picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with you.
I love
it. It's kind of most phenomenons like this, they're just logical, and you connect those dots and they make sense. But I doubt if it's any like real personal animus toward the organization or whatever. But ultimately, they're going to have a relationship and have to have talk, and I'm sure they'll go forward and probably do business together one day in terms of sourcing and information. That's just the way it works.
Now,
Because
so I haven't told the audience yet, but your cousin is Zach Wilson. Was it tough to watch him struggle in New York and take the slings and arrows from Jet fans?
yeah, it's definitely it was tough. I didn't feel like he really represented the Wilson name the way I would hope for.
But your brother is Garrett Wilson, and he's done a tremendous job.
I'm proud of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brother from another mother.
That's right. You guys look alike.
He is outstanding. I mean, I've covered some of his games and his route running, the way he toe taps the sidelines. I mean, really, you think about whatever this contract will be one day. He's going to be
Hopefully this offseason. Hopefully they extend him.
Well, maybe him and Jamar Chase are duking it out, and we'll see. I think Jamar.
That's why the Jets should get his done first, because the price for receivers is only going to go up.
It's going to be into the 30s and plus.
What's Stingley going to get paid while I have you here? Because obviously that impacts Sauce's contract.
I think he'll just get past the 24.1 that Jalen Ramsey, that APY, and that deal, of course, was done by David Mulligetta, who now represents Derek Stingley Jr. I think that he will get it done this offseason. We talked to, actually, that's my question with Nick Casario on the side with a group of Houston reporters. And, yeah, Nick sounds pretty gung-ho about doing a deal and whenever they can get to the table. No rush, but doing it this year. And I've heard all along from sources that it will be this year. And I do think he will become the highest paid corner. Whether Sauce eclipses him later, we'll see. I mean, I think Stingley's coming off of a better season, but Sauce has a good body of work. What do you prefer? They're different style corners. And Stingley, as far as a lot of things what people want in terms of ball skills, and he tackles and he can cover, but he's just not as tall and rangy. But I don't see a lot of holes in Stingley's game.
No, he's a great player. Just his issues first years were just durability. Like, that was his problem.
He worked hard to fix that. He had to get more flexible in his hamstrings, and he had to train very hard. The thing about Stingley is he enjoys everything. Like, practice is a big deal to him. He has fun playing the game. He genuinely he's not just a businessman. He's like some players. I would say Sting is a little bit different because of the family he has. His dad is so involved. His dad is his private coach, and they're always talking football, always watching tape. And Sting is someone that I think he's pretty grounded for a player that's so talented. and he's somewhat shy and introverted. He's not a big self-promoter, a big talker, but he's starting to get out of his shell a little bit because of all of the adulation and the praise he's earned. And I'm, excited to see what they wind up at contractually. But Nick Caserio sounds like he's open for business. They're on the same page. It's funny you bring this up because I just published my story shared it on social media about the mutual understanding between the Texans and Derek Stingley Jr. I expect the deal to happen.
Aaron Wilson, everyone.
Thank
One of the
you.
greats. Zach Wilson's cousin. Garrett Wilson's brother. Any relation to Russell Wilson?
Oh, man. If I could have some of that Russell Wilson money and maybe hang out with all the celebrities like he does, that'd be nice. I would do it.
Well, you dress like a celebrity. Look at you.
I think I'm sort of turned over a new leaf, Some of the Baltimore guys will tell you back in the day, just very not dressed well at all, just like sloppy. So I eventually had to change.
By the way,
grow up a little bit.
Is Joe Douglas going to get a job anywhere?
Joe has a lot of guys that are friends with him, and if they can find the right role, if they're not as stacked in, say, pro personnel, which I think is a good area for him, and scouting. I mean, he's good at all of it.
I feel like he's almost taken the year off at this point. No, I mean he's been
there was one I
since
heard
late
about
November.
last night. So if Ian Cunningham, who he worked with the Ravens, if he had gotten the Jags, I think that Joe would have been heading down to Jacksonville. So that was an opportunity.
Robert Saleh was almost heading down to Jacksonville too.
Yeah, there was a lot of connections. It's interesting on Jacksonville. So Liam Cohen and the general manager, they have the same agent, Jock McClendon from William Morris Endeavors. So there's a little bit of inside baseball in that one, where the agent had some flex and power with the Cons. He went 2 for 2, was able to stack it with the GM and the coach and a bunch of assistant coaches. So good for them. A lot of commissions heading out to LA to WME.
Must be nice. You get some of that commission as well?
Funny, I'm waiting for that checks in the mail, I guess.
Remember, John Heyman works for Scott Boras apparently, so I don't know how it works with football reporting. But
my wife said the iHeart check is in the mail, so I look forward to that.
Very nice.
From Sports Talk 790, one of my many 1099s, along with KPRC and lately YouTube. I just want to be like you on YouTube and try to grow.
What's that? Plug the YouTube channel so people can subscribe.
Aaron Wilson Sport. It is on there.
Sport, just sport, not sports.
Just sport.
I like it.
Yeah, it's
Aaron
there.
Wilson Sport.
Very simple. Lots of Texans. A lot of content.
All right. He's Aaron Wilson, my dear friend from Houston.
Thank you.
And this all started because a listener wanted to know, have I seen any media fights at the Combine? The answer to that is, I have not. Aaron says it happens with the agency. No scraps in Aaron's scrapbook. David with a $25 super chat. Thank you, David. Jake, no Taco Bell. Beer better. Appreciate you working your ass off for us. Well, thank you very much, David. That's awesome. With this $25 super chat, I didn't even know you could send $25, by the way. I thought it was just $20. I'm going to give you 6 raffle entries, though, for this. So thank you very much, David. Let's rapid fire through some calls, and then we'll say goodbye. June, the GM, is next. Hey, June.
Hey, what's going on? Hey,
June,
Jake, man, I'm a little concerned. You got me down to fight Monday, but I work. I have a job, unlike Bang Mateo. I actually have a real job, I worked 7 to 4 that day. Can you perhaps move my match to Tuesday so I can, kick some ass?
Let me see what I could do, June. The problem is if we start moving everyone's going to want it to be moved when it's convenient. So, but don't worry, you don't need to necessarily be on the show the day you're competing. Your job is to basically just campaign leading up to it, and you could be in the chat even if you can't call in, encouraging people to vote.
I'm not gonna do like Johnny Boy. I'm not gonna campaign because I think people know that I'm like Rick Pitino, forgotten about but come back strong. Like the storm down there in St. John. So I'm not gonna campaign for myself. I let the people decide who's the people's champion. So I'm not worried about that.
Your competitor JJ hasn't called in what was the last time JJ even called in? 2 months ago at this point? Like JJ's very fortunate to even be a 5 seed in my opinion.
Well, let me tell you something. I heard great things about JJ. I heard he's dangerous. I don't take him lightly. I heard he was a dangerous human being not long ago. He has some fantastic takes, according to Slick Nick Ferrier, who always likes to go against me. But I want JJ to call because I don't want just an easy victory. I kind of want to earn my spot. I want to climb up the ladder slowly. But I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to make a deep run. I feel confident about that only because I know that the Jet fans are educated and they love to be edutained, and that's what I do. But I did want to say this, Jake. You did a great job with Ian yesterday, man. Great job.
Thank you.
Because he came across as a super big time, I'm saying it, asshole. Man, he even first of all, he starts off by saying, "Oh man, you're promoting yourself all over the place." I said, "What's wrong with this guy?"
You know,
then he goes like this. He starts looking at his watch.
I get it. Look, I think he you know, he didn't have to come on the show. You know, I was live and kind of put him on the spot. So I
Well, you
appreciate
did a
him
great
coming
job
on.
though. No
Yeah.
lie, no questions came off smooth. It seemed like you were like preparing for the interview. That's right. You did a good job, man.
I think I won him over by the end. I've had him on before in the past. He probably didn't remember it at first. He does so many radio hits, you know, throughout the year. But I appreciate it, June. I know this. Once I get these people on, like, there's not many people who I think are going to be able to do as good of an interview. So I just need to get the people on, and I'll make sure that we get the best out of them when we get them on the show.
Yeah, and listen, and at the end of the day, they started off somewhere too. You put it in the work, I know you be exhausted, but you keep pushing, man. Keep doing your thing. I like that guy Paul you had on earlier. Comes across very humble, very knowledgeable. I like him, unlike Slick Nick. I don't like Slick Nick. You want to know why? His takes are crazy.
Yeah.
He be flowing too much. I'm sorry. And I'm not the only one that feels like that, although I respect him because he works hard too. I put respect on his name.
I like it, June. June, you're the man. I appreciate
I got a
you.
question, Jake. One question for you, though, Jake, before I go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So yesterday, I obviously we also saw the press conference. Correct me if I'm wrong. Aaron Glenn didn't necessarily hint towards Tyrod starting. He kind of said it's too early for any of that. Right or wrong?
Correct. I didn't get the sense that he endorsed Tyrod as the starter. He said nice things about Tyrod while also making it clear it's too early to talk about anyone being the starter. If the season started tomorrow, he'd be the starter, but it doesn't. It starts in September.
Okay, that's what I want the clarity on because a lot of people are saying that he basically called him the starter. And I said, that's a lie. That wasn't true. That's not what I picked up from it. That's it, Jake. Have a blessed one, man. Keep working hard, man.
Hey, June, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for the kind words. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in this week. The feedback has been great. The support from the community allows me to be able to go on these trips. Second year in a row, we've done Combine. We did Super Bowl 3 weeks ago. So this channel continues to grow. Continues to grow. More calls right now. Ricky NY is next. What's up, Ricky?
Hey, how's it going, Jake? And you know what? I would like to second what June was saying. The way that you just snagged Ian walking by yesterday, dude, that was timing. That was being a pro. And I don't know if people realize how impressive that is for you to get one of the big names like that and get like the exclusive interview with him just walking by. That was masterclass, man. Very, very good job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Honestly, I think, you know, just thinking about what June said last call, I think that's kind of Ian's like dry humor. Like, I don't think he was like being mean to me. You know, I wasn't offended. Like, I thought it was funny that he was talking about the logos being everywhere. Like, yeah, it's Brandon, baby. We got to spread the Asmaniac madness here, you know?
Yeah, I didn't take it like that either at all. I was like, holy crap, he just went Buffalo Jet fan on Jake with the dry humor. That was nice. No. Yeah, hell, if you see Trevor Sikkema walking by, grab him for one too.
He's
that
here.
Guy,
so I had him at the Super Bowl. Hopefully you saw that interview, but I will definitely try and see if I can get him over the next 2 days if he's around.
Yeah, he just did an interview earlier with the One Jets Drive people, and it was really good. He had some really good insights on a lot of players. Was actually backing one of my guys from FSU, saying how he's a perfect Aaron Glenn type guy, Azare Thomas, the corner. And but man, I'll tell you what, as far as the topic for this video about our owner getting an F, well, you know what? You got to take the bad with the good. Our owner might be an F, but our fan base is a fucking A. Number one. We have the best fans in all of sports.
By far.
Period.
By far.
Period.
I was having a conversation about this with someone today that works for the Jets, and just talking about this fan base, and it's true. It is. This fan base has suffered. This fan base deserves way more, and hopefully Aaron Glenn's the guy and Boogie's the guy to lead this team back to respectability. We'll start there. I won't even talk about greatness. How about just not being one of the laughing stocks in sports?
You know, I think so. I'm a Glenn guy. I was in his corner from the beginning, and I want to get back to those late 90s, early 2000s feeling where I went into every single Sunday, not thinking I could win, but confident that we were going to win. It's been a long time. I miss that. I deserve it. You deserve it. We all deserve it. And I got to walk out the door to go to work, but everybody have a great day. JETS.
Ricky, you're the man. Ricky's going to be tough to beat in the tournament, folks. Tough to beat, that Ricky NY. Very tough to beat. Trying to find what region Ricky's in. I believe Ricky is in the train region, I want to say. He is... No, he's not. Where's Ricky in the bracket? Ricky NY. No, he's in the butter region. I missed it. He's in the butter region. Where is he? Oh, yeah, he's going up against Dark Knight Steve, 13-4. The butter region, man. You guys know the chat. I just saw that everyone in the chat knew before me. Everyone knows the regions better than me at this point. I got to really study where everyone is. It's not easy. Ladies and gentlemen, calling in for the first time since he was announced as a member of the Field of 64 for Asmaniac Madness. We say hello to the great, the incredible.
These nuts.
What's good, Jake?
Mike, how we doing, man?
I'm doing great, brother. I just want to say I'm appreciative for you guys to even put me in this thing, man. So many heavy hitters in this game, man. The committee is awesome. I just love you guys for even being a part of this, honestly.
Well, you deserve it, Mike. You called the show plenty of times. You're always active in the chat. You support me with memberships. You pay it forward to your fellow listener, man. So I can't thank you enough for your support. I'm glad that you're excited to be in.
I'm excited, man. I've been getting more excited over these days, man. I'm Barbarossa. I'm coming for that ass. So
that's a great matchup, man. You guys are two excellent callers. That's a 7-10, right? 7-10 in the Chicken Soup region. That's a great matchup.
Well, I got him beard-wise, so my beard is better than his. You know what I mean? So I'm not the biggest Jets take guy, but I'm a man of the community, so I hope that gets me somewhere. You know, the community I hope they love me. I'm rooting for Dave, but if Dave can't beat Beast, I like my chances against Beast. You know, I'm trying to figure out my way to kind of go against him. So I think I got this. I think I got the way to go against him.
You got to basically just feed off the fact that half the chat usually hates him anyway. So you just got to get them to like you a little bit, and then they might go against Beast automatically.
Well, you just can't sit there and argue with him. That's the thing. If you sit there and just argue and yell, nobody's gonna win. You know, so I think Beast is easy to be beat. I think Dave can do it. Dave might be able to do it.
Brig is he's got the right mentality as a 15 seed going into it.
Exactly. So I just want to let everybody know I love the chat. I love the Jets fans. We're such a great community. I'm a man of the people. I might not have all the Jets takes, but hey, I'm here. I want to try to make a run.
Mike, best of luck, dude. Great call. Love that. Hearing from Mike D's Nuts for the first time since he entered the tourney. More calls right now. Ladies and gentlemen, on the Gusbuster hotline is the 2 seed in the Butter region. A man that always has something to say about something. You just never know what that something is.
Chicken with pasta is worse than peanut butter with sandwich.
So everyone is in the butter region. If there's a good caller and you don't know what region they're in, just assume they're in the butter region because everyone is in that region. And I got to go through that region.
Yeah, but you're picking yourself to win the whole thing, so what does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Bill Walton has one of my favorite quotes of all time. This was one on UCLA Dynasty. He said, when you're the best in the world, the competition is irrelevant. It's well said. It's true.
That is a strong take.
Yeah. Rest in peace, champ. Rest in peace. There's a funny story. Richard Jefferson and Luke Walton were roommates in college, and Bill Walton would leave his phone number every time he left Luke a voice message on his answering machine. And Richard's like, did he just get a new house and he just moved in? And Luke was like, no, that's the phone number I've had my whole life. And Bill would leave it on the answering machine as if it was like he didn't have his own home phone number. It's a funny story. All right. So Garrett Wilson, first of all, he wants to be a Jet because the Jets are going to give him $30 million. Yeah, I'd want to play for any team that's going to give me $30 million too. That's not really like, I'm not going to give you a hometown. I'm not saying that he should, but like, yeah, if some team is going to give me $30 million, I would want to be on that team for the rest of my life too. It was just like Cam Johnson, who was pouting when he got traded to the Nets, and then he got $100 million, and now he's the happiest net in the world, doesn't want to go anywhere. Yeah, because they paid you a ton of money. This doesn't like what does that mean, Jake?
Well,
Like,
I think to push back on that, I think Garrett does actually want to be a Jet. I think he also, like any athlete, wants to be paid, and I think the Jets can do both. They can give him a chance to be a leader, captain, and pay him. Like I think Garrett has enjoyed being a Jet. He wants to win though.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know what the experience is like. They haven't done much winning, and like I said, he's won every step of the way.
Is that his fault they haven't
No,
done winning?
it's absolutely not his fault. But at a certain point, you want to be part of a winner.
Right.
I mean, maybe
I agree.
maybe he really believes in these guys. I don't know. And then you keep saying, like, Justin Fields keeps rearing up. That name keeps rearing up.
I'm telling you, every conversation I've had with people in the league, which sounds just pretentious even saying, but like the conversations I've had on or off the record, people just like bring up Fields, and it's like you almost wonder if it's like being brought up too much as like, and it's not going to happen. But if I was guessing the veteran they're going to sign, and I didn't think this before 2 days ago, I didn't think they would want to spend money on Fields. I thought they would do something else. I think they're going to sign Fields to compete with Tyrod Taylor.
But yeah, I agree. And this is like what I said last year. Like Winston will get a chance to start, and if Tyrod Taylor is starting quarterback, even if it's not week one, then you would assume at some point Fields would get a chance to start because Tyrod's going to get hurt. I think we would all agree in an open quarterback competition, and unless Tyrod's aged really badly in the offseason, like he just got old overnight, you would assume Tyrod wins that competition going away, right? Like there's no way Fields looks better than Tyrod.
I don't know if he wins it going away. They might. What if they want to design an offense with RPOs and the quarterback being a focal point of the different play designs they want to do, and they want to run the ball with Brees, and they think the running threat of Fields opens things up in the running game with those RPI. Do I think Tyrod's the better pure quarterback? I do, but maybe Fields gets better in the offseason. Maybe it clicks with him and Garrett right away, and he's the best option.
Yeah, he's got that connection with Garrett Wilson for sure. I don't know how much, Yeah, maybe. I just like I'm not even opposed to Fields. Like like what a Buffalo Jet fans say, pick your mid. If I have to pick my mid, I might just take Justin Fields because, like you said, you can. I don't want to call it a gimmick offense, but you can kind of run a gimmicky offense through him, where he's you have to keep an eye on him as a runner, right? So it makes you more accountable to the quarterback. It could work. It's been like 4 years now. And there really hasn't been much improvement with him. And I was a fan of his out of Ohio State. I thought that if you would have asked me who was going to be better, him or Goldilocks, I would have said probably Fields. It just hasn't really worked out that way.
I mean, he has improved, though. Like, statistically, like his numbers have gotten better every year.
They have, but they haven't really gotten good enough. If he's your starting quarterback, he's your starting quarterback because he's a dual threat guy, because he can run. He hasn't earned, what I'm saying? He's not an accurate enough and a consistent enough passer. And that's rough in a pass dominant league. He's just not good enough passing the ball. He hasn't gotten. I agree. Yes, his numbers are better from year to year, but they're still not good enough.
I mean, Sam Darnold stunk before he got a chance to get real coaching with O'Connell and then turned it around. So, I don't think Justin Fields is their long-term answer, but I understand the appeal of at least trying to bring someone in who's a first-round pick, 25, has won some games in the league before, good guy, right? Like, good leader, everyone says. Like, I get it.
Yeah, I'm not like I was still for 1 year. I was still like so much rather have Rodgers. This is what I don't understand. Like, okay, Fields is like I agree. Fields and Carr and retreads like that. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like compared to quarterback plays, Tim Boyle and Zach Wilson, And those guys, it's not a bad option, but like Rodgers was just better than all those guys. I don't understand this unless it's such a personality conflict with Rodgers and the coaching staff, which is at this point the thing to me that would make the most sense. Right, you got a new organization, first time head coach, first time OC, first time GM. They don't want to have conflict with their legendary quarterback, so it's easy to get rid of them. Like that's what makes the most sense to me at this point.
I mean, I would have brought Rodgers back. I agree
too.
with you.
Yeah, that's really all I got.
That's it.
Did you get a knock on your door from Johnny?
I did not get a knock on my door from Johnny.
You will.
I don't know if
You
the
will.
campaign has reached Indiana just yet.
It's national. You'll get a knock on your door. You'll get a knock
Really?
on your door in New York. You'll get a knock on your hotel, your Airbnb door in Indy. You'll get a knock on your door.
Come on, knock on my door.
He's got the troops out working. He's got $1 billion campaign working for him. You're gonna get some phone calls too to remind you what day to go vote for him.
It just feels like it's like Bloomberg's like presidential run. It's spending all this money to maybe win the first primary, win Iowa and then lose from there. I don't know. Because the problem Johnny's running into is he's running into a buzzsaw in the round of 32 if he beats Jason in Jerusalem.
Who would he get?
Hey, Courtney, are you available to talk about the New York Jets and life on the Jake Asman show right now as I'm live? Wow, where are we eating? Oh, great choice. Yeah, I was there last two as well. We're 2 hours in currently. We did 2 hours earlier as well. The Jets talking just never stops. Let me give you a magnet while you're here.
Who are you talking to?
Maybe ESPN will have us do another show at some point. Yeah, have to. Why not?
Jake's got the whole setup there.
I appreciate it. Courtney Cronin, everybody. You guys can't see her, but I promise you she was just standing in front of me. Continue, Gary.
Who were you talking to?
Courtney Cronin. She's on ESPN. She's she covers the Bears. She's on Around the Horn a lot. I did a show with her on ESPN Radio.
Okay. That'd be interesting comment. I mean, I know it's not Jet talk, but the Bears are an interesting team this year.
I was going to ask her about Fields. That was why I had the idea.
Oh, yeah. There you go. I mean, if they get quarterback right, it's a talented team. They could be good right away. But if the quarterback sucks, then they're going to suck too. And then it's a whole – they're the Jets of the Midway. I keep saying that. Like, my wife's a Bears fan. Like, the Bears are just the Jets of the Midway. That's all they are.
She said to me, she's like, weren't you live earlier? And now you're live again? There's no one that's live for more hours of programming in this entire convention center than right here on this channel.
It's true. And that's a credit to you. And a lot of that time, or at least some of that time, we do spend talking about the Jets.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a tournament, and sometimes it's butter, and, sometimes it's Charles Gorman ordering food for a half hour, which is fun too.
Well, while I have you here, Gary, I do want your take on the latest Gorman rip. I would say he's probably peaking at the right time, but I'm curious your thoughts. For those who missed it, this was 2 days ago on the Charles Gorman program.
Oh. Does that count? I mean, look, it's in the voters' heads, right? But does that count because it wasn't on your show? Are the voters allowed to include that?
Look, I just think it encapsulates Charles. I mean, and honestly, let's be real. While it was not on my show, the Charles Gorman show I don't believe exists without the following Charles got from this show in the first place.
Yeah, I mean that's vintage Charles. Charles is going to be hard to beat. Do you think he can do that on command? Like he has to be, right?
Yeah, I think he was born to rip ass.
I do. There's no way he's that gassy. Like that's done on command. It's got to be.
There's no way.
He's always farting. No, it's got to be on command. He's got to have a knack for that for sure.
He's born to fart.
Everyone's got a talent, Jake. God's blessed all of us with something. You can do radio. Charles can rip ass. It is what it is.
What is your talent, Gary, besides quarterback evaluation?
I thought that was my talent. Is it not?
Is that your talent?
I think so.
What else do you?
Oh, I can argue really, really well. My wife calls it lawyer mode. Says it's the most annoying thing in the world. So I would. Lawyer. Yeah, I guess I missed my calling. My wife calls it lawyer mode. Says it's the most annoying thing in the world.
Did your wife, by the way, like the vacuum you got her for Valentine's Day?
She did. She's already used it. It's good.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
We're in good shape.
All right. Well, you know what? You tell her I say hello.
Will do.
Gary?
All right.
Enjoy your evening.
You be good.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gary in Texas.
Gas station pizza is better than a Big Mac.
Super chats. Cut the line. Let's see. Sodak says, "Am I concerned with Fields' fumble numbers?" I'm concerned with all of it. I don't think he's a great quarterback. You guys know why my thoughts on Justin Fields. They sign him. I'm not going to say it's a bad move. I see the logic in it. I don't think we're going to be talking about Fields a year from now like we are Darnold and Mayfield. I don't see that. I hope I'm wrong, man. And maybe I will be. I thought the Jets were going to be good the last 2 years, and they haven't been. So maybe me not thinking they're going to be great this year will be the opposite. That's what I'm rooting for. All right. PBM is up next, followed by one seeds only to close it out. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be electric. What's up, Mike?
Yo, what up? We got to extend G5 ASAP, baby.
Would you just wake up from a nap?
No, I got home from work at 8, and now I'm relaxing for a little bit, and then I'm going to work out. So I'm laying down. I like to lay down when I'm on the phone.
You look good. You're
Thanks.
comfortable.
I am. I'm very comfortable. But yeah, I want to extend G5 ASAP. Pump up the fan base. You know, we got what was it? 27 million in cap space just from the cap increase. So we have money. That shouldn't be a problem.
They had money before that too, because think about it. They're going to free up around $30 million with Devontae alone. Lazard saves them money. What they did with Mosley will save the money. They had a lot of dead money just coming off their books anyway. So there's money for them to make moves.
Yeah, so there's no excuse. Get it done, and let's move on. We don't have to talk about it. And then if they want to wait for Sauce, they can wait. I mean, I don't care, but either way, both those deals are going to get done.
Yeah, I agree. I think Garrett is a priority, though. Sauce, I don't think they need to sign Sauce this offseason. I think they definitely need to sign Garrett this offseason.
Yep, fully agree. All right, man, get to those one seeds. Let's go, baby.
PBM, appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard him say it. You heard me say it just before. We're closing tonight's show with something we like to call around here. One seeds only.
Hi, how are you? Bruce Hall. That's good. Hello, Jake.
Hey, Lane, how are you?
Good. So, yeah. So, it's funny what Gary was talking about, his butter. Butter. I like how his head spins. The real reason I called it is like, what do you do with Devontae Adams? Do you keep him?
I think they're just going to release him.
Really? Why?
Well, he makes a lot of money, and I think he's going to want to go somewhere else where he has a better chance to win.
Who do you draft now out of UCLA?
I don't know if they have any players from UCLA that are in this draft.
I mean, they got like a lot in the other universities, actually. The mock draft. That was good.
Yeah,
I mean,
I thought so.
Who do they have? Desaun, Watson.
Hey, Lane, what are your thoughts on the region that you're in? Have any of the matchups caught your attention?
Yeah, I think that Charles and his soup. I see Snowball. I think he'll do good. He's pairing up with is it BMAC?
No, Snowball is matched
V-Man?
up against Chef Kevin.
It's kind of like close though. I'm looking at the result. Charles, the dog groomer, and Mr. Bowlesy.
Charlie the dog
Bowlesy,
groomer.
rather.
So you're
Yeah.
facing 25 in the first matchup. Do you think you're going to beat him?
20. Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah. You also have. Don't forget, you have Robert C. Rick Kent, Kyle Clifton. I can read all these names. Philly. Who's that? Philly. Wait.
Philly Noodles.
Philly Noodles and J Tree. Yeah, I mean, the next round should be kind of easy.
Who do you have winning the whole thing?
Well, if you have, I would have to say
Kyle Clifton.
You think Kyle Clifton's going to win the whole thing? Wow.
Yeah, now let's go on the other side. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because Charles is on the other side.
Yeah,
And this
Charles has a very intriguing region because
Bring
Beastbreaker's
'em.
in that region, Lane. Do you like Beastbreaker?
Kind of. King Lowski. He's not even
Yeah.
on the show anymore. What happened to him? Is he busy or something? Or is he in a hole?
He called in yesterday.
June the GM.
Have you met June before?
Yeah, he's good.
You like him?
Mm. Anyway, so getting back to, because I actually do like the Giants, Jake. So who do you see them picking up next year in the draft?
I think they're going to take a quarterback, Lane. I think they're going to take Shador Sanders.
I have never really heard of him before, but I mean he should do good. Honestly, if you get more players in the draft, we need a quarterback, and then we also need a QB for the
Have you been
Jets.
studying any of the prospects? Like, who's this year's Canova, Lane? Have you identified the next guy?
Well, you take well, I don't know if the Jets are gonna get Justin Fields, but I mean if they get Panobo, it should be good.
Could be good, yeah. Anything else on your mind, Lane? What's for dinner
Yeah.
tonight?
What's for dinner tonight? Well, talking about food, I'll probably make some burgers. Maybe put tomato on it.
Nice.
And some French fries actually. I gained some weight. You know what happens when you eat a lot.
You
my
gained some
face.
weight. How much do you weigh?
You want to see my scale?
Sure.
The scale. Mm-hmm. Oh, 17.42. I weighed myself.
17.42.
Yeah.
What 17.42? Is
Yeah.
that pounds? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at the scale. Yeah, I was weighing myself actually.
Is it possible you meant 174.2, Lane?
Yeah, 170 point. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Bobby weighs himself.
Yeah, Bobby looks pretty good these days.
Yeah, I liked it when he was laying on the couch though. On the other show, on when he was on what show was he on? It was funny.
The Bobby Show.
No, on Nick Sign. His beard.
Nick Shine does have a beard.
He asked me okay, because the Yankees have the beard and stuff, so said he was gonna cut it off, save it off. I had it for 1 week, and it was so itchy.
Purple Belt Mike says you have fantastic chest hair.
Thanks. Yeah, look at my chest hair. It's
Yeah.
great.
Lane, how tall are you?
But how tall am I? I think I'm let me think. I think I'm 5, a foot, or 5, something like that.
You're 5 foot?
Yeah, something like that.
I think you're taller than 5 foot.
Yeah. But how much are you actually? 5 foot?
No, I'm 5'8".
So what are you doing tonight? You have anybody else on the show?
I have Chiefs fan, and then I'm going to end the show.
Where are you actually? Are you on vacation or you just doing?
Yeah, I'm in Indianapolis on vacation.
All right, I think that's all I have to talk about.
That's it?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Lane, thank you very much for blessing us with your presence.
Yeah, okay. Bye bye.
Hi. Sorry, everybody. See you next call when we talk about sports again.
That's why he's a 1 seed, people. That right there is why he is a 1 seed. I mean, it's not complicated. Lane is 5 foot, 17.42 pounds. We learned a lot there. We always learn a lot when this guy calls. Ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up our show, we need to get a save. And when we need to get a save, we bring in the closer. And the closer's ready to pitch.
It's Chiefs fan.
Guess what? I'm still looking for a job, bitches.
It's Chiefs fan.
I'm just going to rub my hands together all day.
It's Chiefs fan.
There's a whole lot of DNA on this couch.
Let's hear it for Chiefs fan.
Look, it's my dead neighbor that I didn't kill. Jack, I needed that intro today. I have to walk hour in the morning in the rain to go get a cast. And I have to get more. There's no Uber around me. It's fine. I'll be fine.
What do you mean there's no Uber around you?
Southern Illinois doesn't do Uber. That's mostly for St. Louis. So what I'm gonna do?
What about Lyft?
None of that. So what I'm gonna do is there's a McDonald's.
What if you call it a cast or a cab? I mean.
Oh, there's none like that. There's a McDonald's about a 10-minute walk from my doctor's. So what I'll do is I'll wake up early around 5:30, get to the McDonald's by 6:30, beat the rain, and then walk in the rain for 10 minutes to go get my cast.
Make sure the cast doesn't get.
Oh no, I have a ride home. They're gonna keep me there until like maybe 3 or 4 tomorrow, so I might not be in the show at all. So I might be out all day, because they have to redo my X-rays. St. Louis Hospital messed up my disc for my X-rays, so they have to redo my X-rays. So when I went to go pick up my X-ray disc, they weren't able to. So I'm gonna have to pay. I just had to sell off my Magic the Gathering collection, most of my Switch games, a few of my old gaming systems, and I got $1,000 check to go pay for my X-rays. Like I got rid of everything I've had since I was a kid, and it's very depressing, but it's fine. If I gotta redo my X-rays because I don't know how you messed up an X-ray disc and only put one X-ray on there when I dropped it off. So I have to redo my X-rays. Luckily enough, I'm now under my grandparents' insurance, and my grandparents don't mind me being under there since I'm like one of the only 2 grandchildren they trust under that. I just told them I only need to be under it for like 6 months, and if I owe you anything, I'll pay you back. Hell, I even told them if they're moving, I'll move in with them and just do stuff around the house. I might be moving to Boston because one of my friends is coming back from living overseas in Japan for 6 years, and he wants to move back to Boston. So if I move to Boston, I am a 4-hour train ride in to New York City and a 5-hour train ride into 5 hours from MetLife. So if I do move to Boston, I could probably hang out with you guys more.
Well, I hope you move to Boston then.
I'm working on it. That should be happening by 2026. If I move to Boston, I will just show up to more Jet games.
Are you going to let people? I don't know. Are you going to let people sign your cast?
I should have my cast off before I visit you guys, unless if you guys want me to fly me out or want me to come visit. Like my grandparents told me, we're still living in North Carolina, but like you're going to Boston because it has better health care and I have more. Sorry, acid reflux. Had some Chinese food on the way home. Very spicy town. But I have a lot of family in Boston. Maine to Boston all the way down to Florida. So I have a lot of family on the East Coast. Like 75% of my family who I still talk to on the East Coast. So if I move to the East Coast, I have more stuff to do. Boston has more things to do minus the Patriots and the Red Sox. I get to go to my family's favorite college to watch people play hockey, Boston College. That's like the first hockey matches I saw when I was like a toddler. I would go to the Boston College games. I don't know if they were good back then. All I know is was a hot
You're gonna
dog.
get a job, Cheats fan. You realize Boston is one of the more expensive cities to live in.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's easy. Like from like I work retail again. I don't give a damn anymore.
Why don't you
Hell,
get a job now?
can't. Got to recover for this.
Well, I mean, there's jobs you could do where you don't need your
My
right
doc,
hand.
my doctor and told me once I get my cast, no working, no none of this. This is the third time this wrist has been broken in the last 20 years. None of that until
I
you
see.
fully recover. The first 2 times were in fights. The other time was slipping. I'm hoping Lane wins it all. I like the fact that he thinks Kyle Clifton can go all the way. I honestly would love to see JJ and B Mac get blown out. Do you know what day my match will be, by the way?
I don't. Your match is far in the future.
Okay, good. Because if there is a surgery, I'll just do recorded videos or some shit, or I'll just give stuff Gator to edit, like clips to edit for to use for me if I go further in the tournament.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna miss my PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 that I've like had for the longest of time, but it's fine. I'm getting this cast done. I'm getting the X-rays done. Never had a PS4. Never had a PS5.
Boomtown wants to know if you could choose any 3 Asmaniacs to sign your cast. Who would you choose?
Lane, Mikey, and if I choose Mikey, I have to go Bobby. But if I were to choose lower seeds, I would choose. If I were to choose, let's say people in my bracket, I would choose Peter, Weed the People, and David. But if I were to choose lower seeds, as in lower seeds, I would choose. Sarah can't do it, so I will replace that with Jay Greaves. And then for another lower seed, I will go June to GM. And for another lower seed, I would go Snowball. If I were to choose lower seeds.
It's Chiefs fan.
Guess what? I'm still looking for a job, bitches.
It's Chiefs fan.
I'm just going to rub my hands together all day.
It's Chiefs fan.
There's a whole lot of DNA on this couch.
Let's hear it for Chiefs fan.
Look, it's my dead neighbor that I didn't kill.
There's going to be competition for that Jay Graves autograph, Cheats fan. I mean, Mikey Midnight loves the great Jay Graves. Loves her. All right. I've done enough broadcasting today. Tomorrow, bunch of big names set to join us. More on the Jets in the draft. I'll talk more about Garrett Wilson and extension stuff. I'm meeting with some people that are in the know later. So maybe I'll get some nuggets that I could share on the show tomorrow about what they're hearing on the Jets and all that. So we'll have more coverage from the Combine. Thanks to everyone who's called in. Reminder, tomorrow's the last day you'll have to be able to enter the raffle. We've added a 7th prize today to go with the Sauce jersey, Mango jersey, Jermaine jersey, Sanchez helmet, Klecko helmet, Pennington helmet. Now it's a Gastineau helmet as well. So 7 prizes for Friday's raffle. So tomorrow's the last chance you have to win. So keep that in mind. Love you all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of the show. Thanks for being a part of this channel. Make sure you guys fill out your Asmaniac Madness brackets too, by the way. The brackets lock Sunday morning, so get your picks in for that. Even if you don't know who you like, fill one out anyway. It's fun, it's free, and it's a great way to engage with this epic community. Thank you again. Go Jets. Back tomorrow with more. Take us out of here, Muji. I said, take us out of here, Muji.
Look out!
Boogie, 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 boogie. Boogie, boogie.